everybody. Welcome into the Rant. I am Pugs Moran. We do this every Monday through Friday, round about this time, noonish, somewhere in there. I'm always on in the afternoon, but typically I shoot to start at about noon. As I say, we do this every day. Oh, hold on. One little problem. There we go. Now we're good. We do this every day, Monday through Friday. It's a hot topic show. What I do is I go through all the news, the headlines, the trends, whatever it is people are buzzing about, cool stories, fun stories, sick stories, sad stories, whatever it is. I give them to you, and I tell you about what's happening in the world. And the goal of this show is to have you to be fully prepped up on all the shit that people can throw at you throughout the day. I don't want anybody walking up to you going, hey, did you hear about? And then you going, no, I didn't hear about that. But why don't you tell me your heavily filtered version of whatever this big important news story? I want you to have my filtered version, because my filtered version, I believe, is a normal person's version. Okay, this show is designed to be a talk radio show for normal Americans. There's no such thing as that anymore. I mean, look, sports guys, meatballs and meatheads and dudes who just love sports talk 24/7, they're normal. They're normal to a degree. I'm talking about the political talk that occupies every other waking hour of talk radio in this country. Everything's got to be like funneled through a political position. I hate that. And this show aims to correct that. Talk radio the way it used to be. You know what? You shouldn't know how I vote, because you know what? It doesn't matter. I'm just a dude. And secondly, I don't want to tell you. I'm tired of living in this world where everybody is branded by, their political. It's so gross. Anyway, this show is a pushback against that. We've been doing it for 3 years, and I thank you all for hanging out with me. Need some of my Gatorade. The show is performed in a stream of consciousness. What's that? That's just me standing here and blathering. I have bullet points. I don't use a script. It is whatever the hell is next in my mind. Now, because this show is promised to be about current events and hot topics and all that, what I do is I keep it confined, my stream of consciousness, to those topics, to this rundown that I put together earlier today. 4 quarters is how we do the show. The first one is called Antecedently on This Day. It's history. It's this day in history kind of thing. I pull up some things that occurred on this day. We talk about them. Quarter 2, that's birthdays. People born on this day. Were they cool? Do they deserve a happy birthday? Or, just ignore them. We decide. That's quarter 2. Quarter 3 is deads. These are people who've died. We'll shout out Jim Carroll, people who've died. We decide whether they went to heaven or were they banished to hell. And then quarter 4 is the bulk of the show. Quarter 4 is where we do all the hot topics, the current events, the stuff that's trending today, the things that will define this episode of October the 16th. Okay. Gatorade open. And now, of course, we do our semi-sponsor, Code Mix. Not a real sponsor, no money involved, but free product. That's a start. Code Mix tastes like old Red Bull. Not old Red Bull like that's been in room temperature garage for 30 years. It tastes like the original formula of what Red Bull used to taste like, and I like it because they changed Red Bull. They really did. Code Mix remembers. Of course, they haven't paid me for my awesome tagline, which is Code Mix. So good, probably be illegal soon. I think that'll sell. Code Mix it'll probably be illegal soon. I don't know. It's good. Let's see. Let's say hi to the chat room. Our people are funneling in. Come on, come one, come all. We got Peter. We got Barney. We got Adam. We got CC, the Sports Bras. They're hanging out. Sports Bras. Follow them, like them. They're real great supporters of this show. In fact, if I can be so bold, let's do this at this point. We've got an executive producer of today's show. His name is CC, and he's from the Sports Bras. So thank him. Please, thank him. He's a regular now. That's awesome. Let's see here. If you want to be tomorrow's executive producer, you might be asking yourself, well, Pugs, that sounds like a really cool title. I'd like to walk around with that for a day. Here's all you need to do. Be the big tipper on today's show. Drop a little something in the Venmo, drop a little something in the Cash App. Keep this thing going. Support this kind of talk for normal people. All right. Thank you so much to CC. Who else we got in the chat room today? Hold on, let me make it bigger. I always make. That's what she said. Hold on. Does that one work? Hold on. Let me make it bigger. That's what she said. That really works. That works perfect. I got to text that to my kid. We do. That's what she said. No, because in the context, it would take too much explaining. Anyway, just remember. Yes, we still do. That's what she said jokes. It's a good, if for anything else, look, I'm trying to train my kid. My kid is funny and he like, there's a possibility that he wants to have some kind of career being funny, which I think is kind of cool. So we have all these little exercises we do. And one of them is we will always look for the excuse to say, that's what she said. It's good. It's a good training exercise. It keeps you looking for funny things. It keeps you, Barney says a penny saved is a penny earned. All right. It's random advice day. That is true. That is very true, I guess. Peter says code mix with breast milk. I don't know that it has breast milk. It's probably got other things, though, that should be regulated but aren't. Let's see. Let's do small talk. Yeah. Hi, Al. Al's here, too. Cameron's here. I want to make sure I say hi to the early people. Al, Cameron, Jen, Leslie. All the early folk. I like the early folk. KP. There we go. I think I got everybody that's it. Those are the early folks. Welcome to the chat. I like our chat room. I like our community. I like that we're kind of like, if you guys, some of you will go back to the early days. Hell, I don't think any of you go back to like the late 90s in Chicago. But you Dallas people will remember Kelly and I were big in chat rooms. We were huge. We had a live chat room on our overnight show. That chat room cooked, man. That chat room was awesome. That was when chat rooms were right. Then they all got ugly and Nazified and I don't know, weird. Everybody in chat rooms now are weird. It used to be a place for normal people. Kind of like talk radio. All right, small talk. Okay, small talk. Peter, Al's got a question. Did you watch the debate last night? We'll talk about the debate last night. And I'll let you know if I watched it or not. Coming up. Peter says, my daughter and I always did your mom jokes. Yeah, you got to do that. Taronda, I didn't see Taronda. Is Taronda here? Did I miss Taronda? I don't like to miss Taronda. She's sort of like my beacon. When I see Taronda, I know it's time to go. I apologize for that. All right, a couple of things, small talk before we get into the four quarters. Quick question for the chat room, and I'm going to move on to the next topic, but I want to see your answers to this because there is a delay, and it's really irritating to try to do things in real time with the chat room. Here's a question for you. It's a very serious question, and it's going to honestly define how I judge you. I will not be telling you how I do this, but I want to know how you guys do it, okay? I want to know how you guys do it. Do you guys brush your teeth before or after you shower? Probably never thought that was a question before. Neither did I. Neither did I. Do you brush your teeth before or after you shower? Chat room, chime in. I need to see what the people say, and then I'll let you know. Also, hot NFL rumor. We're going to talk about some NFL things. Bunch of trades, bunch of big name, bunch of Devo receivers being moved around. But hot off the presses from my sources, who are usually pretty good at this. Check this out. Matthew Stafford is being rumored to be heading to the Vikings. Oh, my God. Think about it. Now, I said, what? And here's how it was explained to me by somebody who, as soon as he tweets this, I'll be happy to put the name to it. He said, Matthew Stafford, this could be his last year. This could be his last year. This is a lost year for the Rams. The Rams absolutely suck. The Rams are going to need to move on and get another quarterback because probably Matthew Stafford's going to leave anyway. So the Vikings, they're a contender, but nobody thinks Sam Darnold is really the guy for the long haul. You know who they think could be a guy for a guy like Matthew Stafford. That's who you wrap Jordan Addison, you Justin Jefferson. You get that tight end who's coming off the IR. He's going to be back. That's a good team. And all it needs is a commander like Matthew Stafford. He could be walking into something is all I'm saying. The other thing that I didn't know, well, I guess I knew, but O'Connor, the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, was Sean McVay's offensive coordinator when Matthew Stafford won the Super Bowl there. They're like thick as thieves. They're like buddies. The whole staff there in Minnesota is just a bunch of former Rams staff that won Super Bowls with Matthew Stafford. That's a crazy rumor. That'd be huge. Minnesota, what would you have to give up for Matthew Stafford for essentially not even a full year? I don't know, but the Rams are looking to rebuild. So, Rams got to retool, rebuild. I don't know, retool. Absolutely. Anyway, watch for that. That could be coming out today. Matthew Stafford coming to the North. Oh my God. The quarterbacks in the North. I am telling you folks, don't get me going. All right. Also, here's cool. Speaking of the North, here's more small talk for you. Sports-related small talk. My guy Cole Kmet, Notre Dame's own, the Western Suburbs zone. Born in the Western Suburbs of Chicago. Raised a diehard Bear fan, diehard Irish fan. Sound familiar? He's me. He's basically me. Me and Cole Kmet, same. Goes to Notre Dame, stays local, plays for his childhood team. I wanted to play for the Irish. He does. Then he gets drafted in the second round by his hometown team. And currently, Cole Kmet is, I'll tell you, sleep on him at your own risk. He is one of the best tight ends in all of football. We've known it for years. The problem is we've only been winning like 2-3 games a year. But we've always been like, we got a tight end, though. We got a tight. The rest of the league don't know no Cole Kmet. But we do. Anyway, he went off last week in London, 2 touchdowns, big play, 70 yards total receiving, 2 touchdowns. I think he also here's why we're talking about Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet has been named the NFC's Special Teams Player of the Week. What? A tight end won? A top tight end in the league? What is he doing being involved in special teams? Well, during warm-ups of the game in London, the Bears long snapper sprained his ankle, screwing around on the sideline or some shit, so they had no long snapper. So Cole Kmet was like, hey, I used to long snap in high school. And they're like, okay, you are now the emergency long snapper. So it was interesting because on 2 occasions after Cole Kmet scored touchdowns, he had to immediately run back, couldn't celebrate, couldn't do anything. He then had to long snap the extra point. And for this, the NFC has named Cole Kmet Special Teams Player of the Week. Let me tell you something. This dude, if you could buy stock in players, well, you kind of can. That's what fantasy is. No, I mean, like, I think Cole Kmet's going to be a star. I think he's going to be a superstar. First of all, you need to look at him. He's quite handsome. I mean, I'm a straight dude, but I look at Cole Kmet and I go, he's quite handsome. Is that the thing with tight ends? Are all tight ends now all white tight ends? Are they handsome guys? Is that like one of the prerequisites? Anyway, I want to hook him up with Ariana Grande. I think Cole Kmet needs to start dating Ariana Grande because Cole Kmet is better than Travis Kelce. I'm sorry, he is. If you had a team right now and you had a choice in tight end between Travis Kelce, and I'll even let it be Travis Kelce being thrown to by Patrick Mahomes or Cole Kmet being thrown to by Caleb Williams, I would take Cole Kmet. He's great. Anyway, congratulations. That's hysterical. He won Special Teams, NFC Special Teams Player of the Week for his double yeoman-like duty. Okay, also, here's the last thing I want to talk about here. Oh, actually, we'll get into this. Let me see what are you guys saying? Okay, I asked the question of the chat room. I asked, do you guys brush your teeth before or after you shower? And I had no idea that was even a question. I just thought there was one way to do it. So let me see here. I asked you guys, and of course, Jeff can't play along. Jeff can't follow directions. Jeff is the first guy in. I asked the chat room, do you brush before or after you shower? And Jeff says, you guys brush your teeth. Always looking for the joke. I respect that. But it's just irritating in this moment. Barney says he brushes after. Barney brushes after. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, nobody's answering the question. I had one assignment for you fucking people, and you can't even. Thank you, Barney. Thank you, Barney. I got an executive producer here today. He can't even follow the goddamn directions. By the way, when I do this, I'm just looking off into like a a blank. It's just a black hole space. It's just a wall that's all black. I'm not looking at anybody. Kevin says brushes after. Jen says after she brushes her teeth, the last thing. Good Lord. I guess I'm a freak, man. I brush before the shower. It's the first thing I do. And I've got a real reason for it. Here's why I brush my teeth after the shower. And I think if maybe you guys try this, you might see that my way is superior. So I brush my teeth in the shower. I get it all out. Then I get in the shower, and then I get out of the shower and I dry off. Then comes the deodorant, right? Then comes clothes. Then comes the shirt. Then you're brushing your teeth in your shirt, like you're getting like toothpaste dribble on your tie and shit. No, man. I brush my teeth, 1, naked, 2, seconds before stepping into the shower. It's the more effective way to brush your teeth. I thought everybody did it this way. Turns out, I guess nobody does it that way. Spam. Oh, that's an election call. I'm tired of these election calls. Let's see here. Adam says brushing is the last thing. Brushing is the last thing he does. It says, but I don't shower. I don't shower. Oh, I guess that's the other question. Do you shower in the morning or do you shower at night? I gotta be honest. Sometimes I do both. If like at the end of the day, I feel like I never understood people who shower like one or the other. Like I don't think that I get dirty when I'm sleeping, but the shower is a tool in the morning to wake me up. A shower is a part of the morning process. There's a dog walk, there's a cup of coffee, there's probably a bowel movement, and then there's a shower. It's a part of the process. But also, I can't go to sleep if I feel gross. Like if I've been so maybe that's the real shower. Here's how I would answer this. The real shower occurs in the morning. That's the get your shit clean for the day. Don't walk into any rooms and have people go, B.O. That's what the morning shower is for. The nighttime shower is oftentimes, like sometimes I won't shave fully in the nighttime shower. It's just a rinse off and some suds. Feel good. It's like to jump into bed after a shower. That's like the best. But I don't know, let's not put limits on showers. I mean, we're not living in the Sudan. We got plenty of water around here. Adam says, I shower after I work out, so it's usually at night. Yeah, like if you happen to work out, that's another shower. We don't have to just shower once a day, people. I enjoy a good shower is very important. I have chosen apartments in my time based on the shower. There was one apartment in Legacy Village that I chose. It was way more expensive than another one that was almost as cool. And on the other side of Legacy Village, that one was closer to bars and stuff, which I thought would be important. So I could just walk to all the bars over there and I wouldn't have to drive or anything. And in this place, I wouldn't have to drive. Just a longer walk, especially when you're drunk. But the reason I chose that one was because it had one of those glass box showers. Just a glass box. With 2 spigots on each end. Oh, it was the greatest. Dude, I took 3-4 showers a day when that was the setup. It's awesome. Like a scene from Silkwood, like a decontamination room. I have no... Peter's like, great content. I have no idea if he's being serious. We're just riffing, folks. That's all we're doing. All right, so the last thing I wanted to talk about here in the... small talk segment, a new word that I heard, and it made me laugh. And I thought I would share with you. And maybe just like the brushing your teeth, maybe this is a word that people have been using, but I guess I don't run in cool circles, so I haven't heard this word ever used. It's a sniglet. If you remember what sniglets were, Rich Hall, he was a comedian back in the 80s. He did a bit called Sniglets, where it was like, words that, like, for instance, that thing in mall directories that say you are here. A sniglet for that would be that's called an idiolocator. An idiolocator. The thing on maps that say you are here. So this is a sniglet, I suppose. But the conversation that was being had that unveiled this word was about how we're getting to hoodie season. Hoodie season, ladies and gentlemen. I am a big fan of hoodie season. I love hoodie season. The only thing that I share in common with Gen Z is apparently a desire to wear hoodies as often as possible. Hoodies are big in my life, big players in my life. I have a whole bunch of different ones. I even have dress hoodies. I love hoodies. I have sweater hoodies, zip-up hoodies. It is hoodie season. So the conversation was about a missing hoodie now that it's hoodie season. Okay? So a dude's like, I don't know, I'm missing my favorite hoodie. And it turns out that the hoodie was probably walked off with by one of the many women that he brings home to have sex with. You know, like he meets a girl at a bar, he brings her home, and in the morning, she leaves wearing his hoodie, wearing, the hoodie that she put on in the morning for breakfast or coffee or whatever. Morning sex. I don't know how you kids are living. I don't care to know. I've been there. I was young once. I don't need to do it again. But so the missing hoodie. And we all know what that is. I mean, it doesn't matter. This isn't a new thing. I mean, you hook up with a girl and sometimes they go home with a t-shirt, It's like a parting gift, we used to call it. You're never getting that t-shirt back, dude. That's a parting gift. Well, apparently there's another term for it. And this guy said, he goes, yeah, I think so-and-so may have left after our night of hooking up with my hoodie. And another guy goes, well, you just got to chalk that up to being a screw veneer. Screw veneer. She got a screw veneer. That's funny. Never heard that. Is that a thing you kids are saying? You kids are great. I'm telling you, you kids are just the best with your words. But I've never heard that term screw veneer before. And I laughed, and they both were like, you've never heard that? I go, I've never heard that, man. Never heard that before. All right. It's kind of a puttering end to our small talk segment today, isn't it? Al says he loves hoodie vest jackets. I don't like vests. I don't like vest jackets. I like vests. I like sweater vests. I'm a big sweater vest guy. I've got some sweater vests now. Haven't been able to wear them publicly without being roundly mocked by total strangers because apparently the sweater vest ain't a thing anymore. But I used to have a bunch of them. Still do. Gonna bust them out someday. They'll be back. What I don't like is the douchebag vest. That every day trader wears when he's standing on the sideline at his kid's soccer game. That. I don't like that vest. He's always wearing it with like a button up, like maybe like a dress shirt that should have a tie, but no, it's Saturday. He's at his 15-year-old's soccer game. He's wearing the whole I day trade. He's wearing the whole I cheat on my wife uniform, which that is. I bang my secretary uniform. Dress slacks, dress shoes. No, is he wearing dress slacks? I don't know. I'm trying to picture that guy, and I've abandoned that thought. Cece, the sports bra, says, I put on some jeans today for the first time in a while and realized that I have lost some weight. There you go. Good for him. Now me, I'm eating one meal a day. This is bugging me. I have spent the last, I don't know, since I divorced, probably. She used to make breakfast. She was a good wife. I was a bad husband. But not bad in the way you're probably thinking. Just bad in the I'm in my own head all the time and I ignore everybody kind of way. What was I saying? I only eat one meal a day. And I've been doing it for like 10 years. 10, 12, 13 years. One meal a day. I eat it like 6 o'clock at night. And I keep hearing about all of these fasting diets. And gentlemen, are you willing to go 9 hours without eating? And I'm like, I already do that. I do that all the time. You can eat whatever you want if you just fat. Doesn't work. I eat at 6. I eat at 6:30, somewhere in there. And yeah, sure, it's probably about, 5,000 calories all in one swoop. And then I go lay on a couch and watch TV for 3 hours. Sure. But still, it's fasting. So therefore, my deductive reasoning says fasting doesn't work. That's a scam. ultimate fasting. I think that's the only thing that works. Ultimate fasting. And I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Ultimate flat fasting. Let's see. What else do we have here? What do we say we get started? We say we stop with this. But, just word of the day, screwveneer. I love that word. It is the Rant. I am Pugs Moran for the 16th day of October, year of our Lord, 2024, as we come to you live from the Kelly Moore Memorial Studios in the beautiful E-Gallery. I can tell you that 290 days have already been torn from the calendar of this year. We've got 76 more. Man, 76. We are decidedly inside 100. Tis the frickin' season, bro. All right, let's do quarter one. Quarter one is called Antecedently on This Day, and we like to, just kind of glance past the roles of history and decide what's important to talk about on this edition of October the 16th. Here we go. Antecedently on this day, year of our Lord, 1793, the French Revolution. Queen Marie Antoinette is executed. Marie Antoinette, everybody, classroom. What is the most famous thing that you know to be true about Marie Antoinette? The only thing that you know to be probably right, let them eat cake. Marie Antoinette, when confronted with the facts of her what? Peasants, starving, not even having the money to make simple bread, Marie Antoinette famously responded in her callous and completely unaware way, let them eat cake. Suggestion, of course, being that, well, if they don't have bread, maybe they should just have cake. Showing how she doesn't even know. Cake is harder to get than bread because she's the queen. Let them eat cake. They chopped off her head on this day in 1793. Marie Antoinette never said, let them eat cake. Nope, she never said it. Just another one of them things. Another one of them deals. It was just a rumor that was started because it seemed like it fit the persona that they wanted to create for her, that she was this awful, awful person, which she probably was, and she had probably said things that were even worse. But this one, let them eat cake, was completely fabricated. But she was killed for doing a whole bunch of other shitty things on this day in 1793. On this day in 1869, the Cardiff Giant. The Cardiff Giant is discovered in New York. Do you guys know the story of the Cardiff Giant? The Cardiff Giant I saw the Cardiff Giant, or at least a replica of the Cardiff Giant at some stupid museum in Michigan. Anyway, the Cardiff Giant was found on this day in 1869, and it was a gigantic 10.5-foot tall petrified human being. They believed it was a Native American because of where they found it. But here's the thing, it wasn't real. It was a fraud. And you want to talk about the dude who perpetrated this fraud, and I don't know his name, but this is how pranks used to be done. And it was done over the course of years, and it was like really, really well thought out. So this dude in New York used to get into these arguments at the pub with all of these like Christian dudes who were there. And the Christian dudes used to talk about the giants who used to rule the land. And this dude was like, there were no giants. He was more of a scientist. He believed in the whole theory of evolution and all that kind of thing. So he's like, there were no giants. And the Jesus people were like, there were giants, you don't know. So what this guy decided to do was he was going to fake a giant, and he was going to find a giant just to show how easily duped these people are, right? So he goes out and he gets some weird rock from Iowa, and he has it shipped into Chicago, where some artist creates this stone giant statue, and then it's treated to make it look like it was, and then it's shipped to New York. This dude spent the equivalent of $250,000 in today's money pulling off this prank. Then he gets the thing delivered to him, right? And he buries it in some distant relative's yard. A distant relative who he actually is friendly with because apparently they work together. So this distant relative buries this giant out in the yard. This stone thing that's created by this dude trying to prank the Christians. Dude waits a year and a half. The thing is out there in the yard for a year and a half. And then the dude perpetrating the prank go, it's time to call in a construction company and build a well out there. And the construction company comes out and starts building a well. And oh my God, the construction company discovers this fossilized giant. Praise Jesus. And it became a national sensation. And people, they made all kinds of money off of it. They were charging people 50 cents for 15 minutes, and they had thousands of people coming from all across the country to step inside a tent in this farm in upstate New York to look at the Cardiff Giant. Wasn't real. Antecedently on this day in 1923, Walt Disney and his brother Roy found the Disney Brothers Cartoon Studio, today known as Walt Disney Company. Disney was born on this day. Antecedently on this day, in the year 1953, the Cuban revolutionary Fidel Castro delivers his "History will absolve me" speech, as he is sentenced to 15 years in prison by Fulgencio Batista. Okay, so on this day in 53, Fidel Castro was sentenced to 15 years in prison. On this day in 1962, 9 years later, Cuban Missile Crisis begins. So I guess he didn't spend 15 years in prison. I don't know. I guess I don't know the revolutionary story of Fidel Castro, but he was in prison, and then within a couple of years, he was like the president of Cuba, the supreme dictator, whatever we call it. I don't know. Anyway, on this day, Cuban Missile Crisis begins. President Kennedy is informed of photos that were taken on October the 14th by a military U-2 showing nuclear missiles. The crisis will last 13 days from starting from this point. So there you go. That's the phrase 13 days in October. It's a good movie. Got my kid this weekend. I mean, that's kind of movie we watch. You know what? There you go. I know what we're watching this weekend. We're going to watch Kevin Costner's very good film. Oh, and this will make sense. Because remember I told you like a month ago, I'm flicking through some movies to watch, and my kid goes, "Who's Kevin Costner?" And I almost put his head through the wall. I was so angry at myself. I'm like, how do you not know who Kevin Costner is? I made you watch The Untouchables. And all he remembers from The Untouchables is Robert De Niro and the baseball bat. I'm like, you don't remember Elliot Ness? And he's like, who's Elliot Ness? I'm like, oh, shit, we got to watch The Untouchables again. Holy crap. And then he goes, I like the guy who said they send one of us to the hospital, we send two of theirs to the morgue. And I'm like, dude, that was the Sean Connery character. He's not even a real character. That's not even a real person. You can't like the fake character. Oh, we got to watch Untouchables again. Anyway, he claims he doesn't know who Kevin Costner is. So 13 days in October. We'll watch that this weekend. He'll learn the history. He's very interested in history, so he'll like it on that level. But also, he'll have to watch Kevin Costner again. I can't believe I've never made him watch Bull Durham. We never got to Bull Durham. I don't know why that is. That's definitely an oversight. I mean, we got Longest Yard. We got Slapshot. We got Major League. I mean, we got all the good ones. We got all the ones you'd think, we don't have Bull Durham. I never made him watch Bull Durham. Antecedently on this day in 1968, Tommy Smith and John Carlos are ejected from the U.S. Olympic team for participating in the Olympic Black Power Salute. They got in a lot of trouble for being proud black men on the Olympic stage. This is no place to be a proud black man. Whatever. Sure it is. Why isn't it? These dudes for like 20 years after that, Tommy Smith and John Carlos, they were like persona non grata everywhere. They were considered bad people. Like if you were raised by people like I was, and by that I mean my grandpa, he thought they were like the worst anti-American. I mean, he believed all the programming and all that kind of stuff. So for about 20 years, I would say, after 1968, 78, 88, I would say around the rise of hip-hop, Tommy Smith and John Carlos, they went from being, basically like people who assumed they were terrorists to being absolute American icons. Today in 2024, they are icons. There are schools named after them. There are roads named after them. There are statues to Tommy Smith and John Carlos. But man, they had to go through those 20 years. They did their thing. They said, I'm a black man and I'm proud. The whole world went, nobody cares, you stupid black person. I mean, because that's just how the reaction was. That was the normalized reaction back then. Stop being proud, or whatever. I don't know. And for 20 years, these dudes, they couldn't get work. They were ostracized from civilized society. They were openly discussed as, akin to terrorists. terrorists against the American way of life. And then one Public Enemy album, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, we're selling books, we're doing speeches, they're making movies about us. We're okay now. It was 20 years of hell, but now pretty good. On this day in 1968, on this day in 1978, Cardinal I can't. The last name is spelled W-O-J. You know, whenever you see a last name that begins with W-O-J, you know that whatever comes next is going to be trouble. Whatever comes next. Carol, W-O-J, T-Y-L-A. W-O-J, T-Y-L-A. Wojtyla. Pope John Paul II. Let's just call him Pope John Paul II. It was on this day in 1978 that he was a cardinal and then went to bed that night a pope. He became a pope. He woke up a cardinal, went to bed a pope on this day. Pope J.P. Toole. The cool pope. The pope who looks just like Tom Landry. He does. He does. Tom Landry and the pope, they look very similar. Well, the old pope. 2 popes ago. 3 popes ago? I don't know. I'm a little confused with my pope count. What else do we need to mention about him? He was the first non-Italian pope since 1523. That's a pretty big thing. He was the Polish pope. Came from communism, resisted communism. He was the pope He was the pope the free world needed in 1978, a symbol of resisting communism and rising to the absolute heights of Catholicism. On this day in 1978, Pope John Paul II becomes, Pope John Paul II. On this day in 1991, okay, here we go. Let's take a moment here. Let's talk about this one. This one's weird. This one's tragic. I vividly remember this. And I guarantee that a whole bunch of you do as well. And we talk about here was on this day that we had the Luby's cafeteria killing down there in Killeen, Texas. On this day in 1991, George Hennard runs amok in Killeen, Texas, killing 23 and wounding 20 at a Luby's cafeteria. First of all, let's just get this out of the way. Luby's rocks. I love Luby's. Luby's got some fucking middle class working man food, man. Luby's is good. I like Luby's. On this particular day, this Luby's down there in Killeen, Texas was packed. It was Boss's Day. And, so a lot of secretaries bringing their boss to Luby's as, one, because they knew they'd get a good meal. And 2, a reminder that you need to pay us more. If I'm going to take you for Boss's Day, we ain't going anyplace nice. We're going to Luby's. They said there was about 150 people in the Killeen when George Hennard drove his F-150 pickup truck through the plate glass windows, exited his vehicles with pistols in each hand, and began just executing people. Now, I say people, but I can be more specific. Because as it turns out, this dude was one of them. This dude was ahead of his time. He'd be very comfortable in the... What's that like part of MAGA that doesn't have sex? They all have girlfriends in Canada. They don't like girls. You know what I mean? They're like the really scary part of MAGA. Well, one of them, not the scariest, the saddest part of MAGA. Those guys, like in there, Nick Fuentes, dudes who like don't have sex and they hate women because they can't have sex. These guys, what are they called? I don't know, whatever they're called. But this dude, George Hennard, he would have fit right in with that. He hated women. I want to talk about that. I'm going to tell you the details of what happened here on this day at the Luby's restaurant. And then we're going to dive a little bit into who this guy George was and what some of his beliefs were. And I mean, I'm reading this morning and I'm like, where does this come from? How does this happen? And I think I have an answer. So here's how it all went down at the Luby's on this day in 1991. Hennard exited the truck and yelled, "All women of Killeen and Belton are vipers. This is what you've done to me and my family. This is what Bell County did to me. This is payback day." So he drives his F-150 through the plate glass windows of the Luby's. He's in there. God knows who he's already run over, right? I mean, let's talk about the body count. He's probably run people over. They're dead from the car crashing through the dining room, exits the car, pistols in each hand, and he gives that little speech. This is all the women of Killeen and Belton that they're vipers. Bell County did this to me. This is payback day. And he begins firing. Hennard had stalked, a little background on him. Hennard had stalked two women, sisters, 23-year-old Jill Fritz and 19-year-old Jana Jamigan, who lived 2 blocks away from him in his neighborhood. He sent them a 5-page letter, part of which read, "Please give me the satisfaction of someday laughing in the face of all those mostly white, treacherous female vipers from those towns of Killeen and Belton who tried to destroy me and my family. And do you think the 3 of us can get together someday?" All right. That's the love letter, the stalker letter that he sent to these 2 sisters who lives down the block from him. He opens it up with, again, talking about all the women and all the vipers and how everybody's going to pay someday. And then his very next question is, "Hey man, you think the 3 of us can hook up?" He's not normal. This is not a normal person. We need to identify these people. I don't know that we've gotten any better at identifying these people. I know for a fact that back in 1991, we had no way of culling these tards from the herd, but that's what this guy is. That's your game. That's your game. That's how you think you can talk to women. That's how you think you can. Once again, okay, I want to please give me, this is what he wrote to these girls. "Please give me the satisfaction of someday laughing in the face of all those mostly white, treacherous female vipers from those 2 towns of Killeen and Belton who tried to destroy me and my family. And do you think the 3 of us can get together someday?" Oh my God. All right, so just put a pin in that. That's who this guy is. And when I talk to you about why there is this hatred for women, I just remember this guy, remember this moment, remember he has no game. Numerous reports include accounts of Hennard's expressed hatred of women. An ex-roommate of his said he hated blacks and Hispanics. He said women were snakes and always had derogatory remarks about them, especially after fights with his mother. Survivors of the shootings later said that Hennard had passed over men in order to shoot women. 15 of the 23 murder victims, 65%, were women, as were many of the wounded. He called 2 of the victims bitch before shooting them. On his 35th birthday, which would have been yesterday, he did this the day after his birthday. On his 35th birthday, October the 15th, Hennard spoke with his mother on the phone. Later that evening, while eating a cheeseburger and French fries outside of Belton, Hennard had a sudden outburst of rage as he watched television coverage of Clarence Thomas's confirmation hearings. When an interview with Anita Hill came on, he went off, manager Bill Stringer said. He started screaming, "You bitch, you bastards opened the door for all women." All right. So this dude who did the whole Killeen thing, he drove the car through the plate glass window, started killing people. He obviously had motive. His intent was to kill women. He wanted women to pay. Just had this weird hatred of women. Now, look, let me tell you, I'm a guy that's been divorced twice, okay? So I'm being completely honest when I tell you that I understand women are frustrating as hell, especially when you're approaching them from the perspective of a normal American male. Women are frustrating as hell. Women can drive you nuts. Women can make you angry. Women can confound you, confuse you. They play emotional games to a level that, most guys, we can't hang with that. They do not have the physical advantage. Right? Like I always say, hey, look, all power to women. I was raised by a mother. I have nothing but respect for women. I think that if the brain is involved, there isn't a thing that a woman can't do that a man can. But if it comes to powerlifting, right, men are physically superior. But women are emotionally superior. Yeah, I know. You think I'm crazy. What? They fly off the handle. They can't. No, they know how to manage their emotions, and they know how to use them to manipulate the men in their lives. It's a skill. Starts with our mothers. I mean, don't fucking think I'm making this up, man. I mean, this is a very real thing between men and women. Okay, so having said all that, women are also the reason that we keep breathing. I think as a normal man, as a normal guy, women are what drives almost everything that we do as men. And a lot of men, they get what they want. They actually marry a woman that they, 20 years later are still in love with and, still think is beautiful and, still enjoy having sex with and all that kind of stuff, right? There's some people get that thing. A lot of other people don't. A lot of other people have bad relationships where it's, they have expectations and they try and force them. So, they marry the girl out of high school who they really don't like. They've only met 5 girls in their life and they're going to marry this one because, well, we're 18 now and that's what we do in this town. They have just these terrible relationships and that goes sour. And now what's this guy's deal? Now this guy's like 25 years old. He's probably got a pot belly because he's been married for like 6 years. He feels like a 40-year-old divorced guy, but he's only 25. He's having difficulty out there meeting girls because he doesn't have any skills because, again, he never went out in the real world. He never dated. He never met people. He never traveled. He never learned things. Can't hit on girls. Doesn't know how to talk to girls. He's a guy like, I'm not going to say he's a guy like this Hennard guy because that letter that I read to you where he went from saying, ladies, I hope one day you do me the honor of, and then he started trashing all women. And then the next question was, hey, can the 3 of us hook up? Like, that dude's retarded, okay? That dude, I'm sorry to be so, crass with my use of that word, but that dude, there's something wrong with that dude. How do I know? Because the next day he drove through a Luby's and just started killing people. That's how I know there's something wrong with him. So excuse me for using the word retarded because that's, just kind of a catch-all for people who do that stuff. Autistic? I don't know. What are we looking at? I'm not a doctor. My issue is this. He's not normal, and he's not normal, so stop defending him. Let's just agree he's not normal. Sorry. Some guys, and I wonder if this is because of the digital age. All right? Bear with me. My concern is that we'll move on from the Luby's thing, but my concern is that there are a lot of young men in America who seem to have a default setting of I hate women. And it seems to be more prevalent now than with any generation before. There were always misogynists, don't get me wrong, but even like the most diehard misogynist from the 1960s would be like, dude, I love chicks, Not an actual hatred where you want to punish them and you want to hurt them. And I think that this new thing where there is a legitimate hatred for women by young men, I think this new thing has a lot to do with them being the first generation who almost entirely came about having virtual relationships with people. Your friends are on text. You're not hanging out in your friend's bedroom till 11 o'clock at night, listening to music, prank calling friends, being with other people one-on-one, learning social cues. No. Kids for the last 15, 20 years have been laying in their beds by themselves in a chat room, hanging out with their entire class. I really think that young people have serious social dysfunctions now because when they are in a situation where they have to interact with a real warm-bodied human being, they don't have any skills. You get 19-year-old guys out there trying to meet girls and hit on girls in the real life, and they have the skills of a 12-year-old at his first roller skating party trying to ask a girl to dance. It's absurd what's happened. And I think it has a lot to do with kids not hanging out in groups, not going to parties, apparently my kid has a really good normal social life, right? But he doesn't do the things that I did. He doesn't go to the places that I did. He stays home on Friday and Saturday nights. He's a sophomore in high school. I used to go to parties every Friday and Saturday night. There was a kegger somewhere. I'm like, dude, are you a dork? Or do you just not want to do that? Or what's going on? He's like, Dad, that's not really a thing anymore. I'm like, what? He's like, no, leave me alone. I'm hanging out with my friends. I'm like, no, you're not. You're not. You're on your phone. And then you look at it and he's hanging out with his friends. I don't know, man. I think that there is a real fear of women by young men now, unlike before, fear of an unknown, because I think a lot of dudes, by the time dudes get to be the scary age, and the scary age for dudes is like 18 to 24, right? That's the scary age where they're just young, dumb, and full of, and they're just going to do stupid, dumb things. Without like years and years of dating and holding hands and being with girls and making out in cars and learn, kids don't even get their driver's licenses anymore. And all of these things, I think that when you're a 19, 20-year-old and, you don't know how to hit on a girl at the first college party you go to, because those still exist, the frat parties and stuff. And then, you date rape, and you get called a date rapist. And then all of a sudden you're like, I'm not a date rapist. And then you hate women. It's like, oh, well, women are liars and they all suck. I'm like, man, I just think, and it's not like in my day everybody had game. They didn't. There were awkward dudes. Anybody who knows the people that I run around with or used to run around with back in the day, we had a couple of dudes. We had one guy we called the sexual camel because he was able to go great distances without sex. So, I mean, there's always been dudes who didn't have game, but I just think there's so many more. There's so many more. And by game, look, that might be a crude way of just simply saying having mutual respect for a stranger and being willing to be vulnerable and curious when it comes to learning about them. And also being strong enough to realize she's doing the same thing. And if she doesn't like you and she walks away, that doesn't define who you are. That defines her, not you. So instead of being like, oh, fuck you, bitch, fuck it, just, you need years of that. You need years. By the time you get to be 20 and you're really dating and you're like, now I'm going out in the world, I'm going to see, maybe I'll meet someone I'll marry one day. When you get to that stage, if you don't have years of breakups and broken hearts and relationships and chasing girls that don't want you, if you don't have all of that foundational emotional cement, then you're going to be a fucking nut at 20. And you're going to be one of these kids, listen to what's that dude, that Tate dude's name? He knows it. He's exploiting this with all these dumb kids who girls don't like. You don't have to be handsome either. That's the other thing, man. That's the other, kids don't realize, well, all girls want are just like jocks and I'm just not a jock. No, dude, you can be interesting. You can be charming. You can be really fucking cute. You can do all kinds of things. You're not ugly. You're defining yourself as ugly. What you're doing is you lack confidence. Anybody with confidence, I don't care how good. Look, Adam Driver is ugly. Hey, Adam Driver. Do you think Adam Driver was getting laid in high school? No. Adam Driver was a weird-looking dude, and he's still a weird-looking dude, except women think he's hot. He's got a giant slope face, nose goes. He's not a handsome guy, but he's confident, and he carries himself with fucking joie de vivre, and he's got game. Or you can have money. Money also works. If you give money, then, girls will. Anyway. I think I told this story before about a year ago. We're driving in my car and the kid goes, hey, do you know who Andrew Tate is? And he starts talking to me about Andrew Tate. And I'm like trying to feel him out. I'm like, okay, my 14-year-old is being exposed to Andrew Tate. I basically let him explain. He was laughing about it. He was like, here's what he said. You know what he says? And then he's like telling me all these things that he says. And I go, I don't want you listening to that guy. And it kind of turned into a thing. I'm like, that guy's an asshole. And I started ranting. And if you can only imagine how I rant here, you can imagine how I rant in a car with a kid for 45 minutes, right? Just another thing about that guy. I kicked that thing's ass. And now my son, a year later, he's very anti Andrew Tate. He understands what it is and he makes fun of it. And he makes fun of people who like him. And he's always sending me videos of like YouTubers slamming Andrew Tate and all that. So mission accomplished. But oh my God, I was worried. I was worried that like, oh my God, is my kid going to turn into one of these? I hate women. I hate women because it's not easy. Because I can't just, good-looking guys. It's easy for good-looking guys. Yeah. Sex attraction is a big thing. Jeff Ballard says, look at Pete Davidson. Pete Davidson is ugly. You know who else is ugly? Mick Jagger is ugly. They're not. Come on. None of these guys are Cary Grant, okay? Cary Grant, nice rep. None of these guys are Leonardo DiCaprio in 2000. Leonardo DiCaprio now. Plenty of us, I think, are Leonardo DiCaprio now. Have you seen him? He ain't holding together. He ain't holding it together the way Brad Pitt and George Clooney are. Leo's letting it. Leo's going Brando, I think. I think Leo's going Brando, which might be appropriate. All right. Let's move on. Anyway, it was on this day that one of these women hating freak shows killed a whole bunch of people. George Hennard on this day, October 16th, 1991, Luby's in Killeen. Terrible, terrible thing. It was that was the biggest mass shooting in American history at the time, and was until obviously it's been passed a couple of times because we as a country got really good at the mass shooting totals. But Virginia Tech was the one that first passed up the Luby shooting. Oh boy, what are we doing? All right, on this day. On this day, last one, 1995, Million Man March. On this day in 1995, the Million Man March takes place in Washington, D.C. They didn't get 1 million people. With not 1 million people. The number totaled here says 837,000. So if that were a crowdfunding campaign, it would not have reached its goal. The Million Man March took place on this day in 1995. All right, let's do some birthdays. Q2, we get into birthdays. These are people celebrating being born on this day. We decide whether or not we like them or not. Are they cool, and do they deserve a happy birthday, or do we just ignore them? Born on this day, my son and I have already exchanged our little notes about this one. Born on this day in the year 1890, Michael Collins. Michael Collins. I woke up, had a text from my son, 15-year-old son. He said, "Happy Michael Collins Day." And I said, that is so awesome. That is so awesome. Michael Collins is, of course, he's the George Washington of Ireland. That's what I like to explain him as. He was born on this day in 1890. Michael Collins was a badass. Michael Collins basically was the guy that the British feared the most. Michael Collins ran a group of individuals known as the 12 Apostles, who my ancestor, Liam Tobin, was the intelligence director of the 12 Apostles. So my son and I have been way into the whole Michael Collins story and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, the 12 Apostles' job was to go around the streets of Dublin and shoot in broad daylight all the police. That's right. And we are celebrating that day. Yeah. We are celebrating the 12 apostles that Michael Collins sent out into the street to assassinate all the British police. Didn't matter if you were just on a street corner directing traffic. Someone would jump out of a car and put a bullet in your head and then get back in the car, drive away. That's what the 12 apostles did. Now, a lot of us might call those kinds of things, and we might call Michael Collins a terrorist. And that's all about perspective, as with all accusations of terrorists are. They're all about the perspective of the person who's directing the narrative. Michael Collins, I don't see Michael Collins or the 12 Apostles or any of the Irish Republican fighters. I don't see any of them as terrorists. England did, civilized society did back in the time. They were heroes. They were no more terrorists than George Washington and those who took up arms against the British, or those who started the small skirmishes, or the Boston Tea Party, or any number of small, little civil disobedient acts of what would now be called terrorism that were done leading up to the American Revolution. Were they terrorists? I don't know. It's complicated. On this day, Michael Collins, Irish general, politician, the big fella. That's his name. That's his nickname, the big fella. We killed him. Look, this is not the George Washington story where he becomes president for 2 years or 2 terms or whatever he was. He becomes president and rides off into the sunset and dies a hero. No, the Irish people murdered Michael Collins. Michael Collins was murdered. And he's still considered a hero, but they murdered him because he didn't get all of Ireland. He only got the Republic of Ireland. He was supposed to get it all. He wasn't able to get the north of Ireland. That was the compromise. He went over to Parliament. And they gave him a deal. They said, we can stop all this murder. We can stop all this killing. You can stop killing our cops in the street. We can stop lining your leaders up against a wall and murdering them in front of school children. You can stop blowing up pubs. We will stop rolling into soccer stadiums and opening fire on people in the stands. We can stop all of this. You can have your own country, Michael Collins. You just can't have the top of it. And Michael Collins said, okay, deal. And he brought that back to Ireland, and half the country was like, civil war. And they killed Michael Collins for bringing that deal back. Anyway, he's a hero. The big fella, Michael Collins, born on this day in 1890. Personal hero to me and my 15-year-old son. Born on this day in 1923, Bert Kaempfert. You know who Bert Kaempfert is? Bert Kaempfert, German conductor and composer. He was a very famous guy. I think he's a big guy in Canada. I think he was way more famous in Canada than he was here. Because, of course, we all know him as hot like wasabi when I bust rhymes, big like Leanne Rhymes, because I'm all about value. Bert Kaempfert's got the mad hits. You try to match wits. You try to hold me, but I bust through. I'll make a fake a break a tick. I won't do the whole song. Bare Naked Ladies, 1 week. Love the Bare Naked Ladies. Bert Kaempfert, born on this day in 1923. Bert Kaempfert's got the mad hits. You try to match wits. Born on this day in 1926, a captain of industry that you don't know that we should mention his name because he changed stuff. Charles Dolan, born on this day. Do we know? Didn't Charles Dolan, didn't he own the Knicks? Is he part of the Knicks family? Here's why I love him. He founded HBO. He invented HBO. Actually, he founded Cablevision, which was like the first major cable company. But he was like, hey, we should have and he's the guy behind HBO. Look at what that shit has grown into. I can't live without my Max. We don't even call it HBO anymore. Born on this day in 1926. Born on this day in 1940. You're going to spend a little time on this guy. Born on this day in 1940, a guy who I will argue is one of the greatest athletes who's ever played any sport in this country. Probably one of the greatest athletes of all time. He's up there with Dion and Bo Jackson and Michael Jordan and all these people that you want to say are there. Here's the thing, though. You don't know his name. Nobody knows his name. This guy, everybody has totally forgotten this dude. Except for real old heads. Real old heads who keep it real. They don't forget this dude. 1998 or whatever, named to the NBA's top 50 team. Yeah, he's an NBA guy. Born on this day in the year 1940, October the 16th, 1940, Dave DeBusschere. Dave DeBusschere, the original Shaq of the NBA. The original, before Wilt, there was Dave DeBusschere. Now, why do I say he's one of the great athletes of all time? Because Dave DeBusschere played a bunch of sports, because Dave DeBusschere played the outfield for the White Sox and then first base for the White Sox, and then he played basketball. They decided he was just going to only focus on basketball because he was much better at basketball. Just so you know who Dave DeBusschere is, born on this day in 1940. He was an American professional baseball player, professional basketball player, and title-winning coach. He played for the Chicago White Sox of Major League Baseball in 1962 and 1963, and also played in the NBA for the Detroit Pistons between 1962 and 1968, and then with the New York Knicks between 1968 and 1974. DeBusschere was inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame in 1983. In 96, he was named one of the 50 greatest NBA players in history. In October of 2021, DeBusschere was again honored as one of the league's greatest players of all time by being named to the NBA's 75th anniversary team. And there you have it, Dave DeBusschere, a big, old, gangly white guy who was excellent at playing professional baseball, who gave that up because he was like, yeah, I want to just play basketball. And then he played another 20 years playing basketball. DeBusschere. He was good. And nobody knows his name. I know his name because my grandpa used to talk about him. But, if you're not as old as me, maybe you didn't have an old head that would tell you about how incredible an athlete Dave DeBusschere is. Greatest white athlete of all time? There's a case to be made. There's a case to be made. Born on this day, 1946. She died last year. It made me sad when I learned she died because I was like, I forgot she had died. I'm sure I knew she died on the day she died because I'm sure they reported it because she's a big name, but I had forgotten until this morning. Born on this day in 1946, Suzanne Summers. Come and knock on my door. Here's the thing about Suzanne Summers. I never thought she was one. Yesterday we talked a little bit about Jiggle TV. Okay, Jiggle TV, the genre of television that Fred Silverman populated with ABC in the late 1970s. Charlie's Angels, Fantasy Island, Love Boat. Love Boat had a rule. There had to be so many minutes per episode of girls in the background in bikinis. It was called Jiggle Time, and that's where Jiggle TV comes from. The term Jiggle TV. Charlie's Angels, probably the greatest example of Jiggle TV. But Suzanne Summers and her role as Chrissy Snow on Three's Company was certainly one of maybe the Molly Ringwald of Jiggle TV girls. I didn't really love. There were a lot of Jiggle girls around back then, and I was like 10, 11, 12 years old, and so I was absolutely interested in seeing the Jiggle girls, but I was not a big Suzanne Summers fan. I thought Suzanne Summers was a little bit basic, another pretty blonde with, a nice body. Hollywood's filled with those, man. Have you seen Farrah? Have you seen Cheryl Ladd? See, I just didn't think she was as pretty as them. Look, we should be so lucky to have a girlfriend as pretty as Suzanne Summers. I'm just saying, when you stack them up against, the other greats of the time, I didn't think she fared so well. So I never really thought much about Suzanne Summers until like 15 years later when she came out with that Thigh Master. That woman, 15 years after her supposed peak, was looking better. Suzanne, 45-year-old Suzanne Summers is like a smoke show. That is like apex Suzanne Summers. I wasn't really a big fan of hers back on the Three's Company. If I'm being honest, I wasn't a great fan of Three's Company. It was all right. I like the Ropers. That's about it. Born on this day in 1958, Tim Robbins. We were talking about Bull Durham earlier today. He played Nuke LaRouche, Ebby Nuke LaRouche in Bull Durham. Bob Roberts is another movie he did. Bob Roberts is a good movie. Well, what else did he do? He do anything else that's good? He's probably done a lot of things that are good. Yeah, I know. He did the prison movie. Which one? Which one did he do? Is Green Mile or is it Shawshank Redemption? Because I'm going to come clean about something right now. I can't tell the difference between those two movies. I think that there are people who don't see a lot of movies who, and this is where programming comes in, if they're forced to say 5 movies that they'll be like Shawshank Redemption, because they've just heard so many people over the years. There's this cult of Shawshank. It's very similar to the cult of The Big Lebowski. The Big Lebowski is a fine movie. It doesn't deserve all of this, and neither does Shawshank Redemption. In fact, I think wasn't Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile released at relatively the same time. I think I like The Green Mile better, but somehow history tells me I'm wrong. Shawshank is great. I can't even remember what that movie was about. Was Tom Hanks in that? Which one had Tim Robbins? I don't know. It's Tim Robbins' birthday. Tim Robbins, born on this day in 1958. Born on this day in 1959, Gary Kemp. Gary Kemp is the lead singer of Spandau Ballet. I got nothing else to say about it. Was also an actor. He was very good in a movie called The Krays that came out in the early 90s. The Krays, very good movie, played by Gary Kemp. The Krays were British gangsters. They were 2 brothers. Actually, they just made a modern version of it with Tom Hardy a couple of years ago, where Tom Hardy played the Kray brothers. Anyway, the original Kray movie. Starred the lead singer of Spandau Ballet, Gary Kemp, and I remember it being pretty good. Born on this day in 1959. Born on this day in 1960, Bob Mould. If I can change your mind. I love Bob Mould, man. I love Husker Du. I love that whole Minneapolis Midwest alternative sound from that era. 80. Oh my God, you get Replacements. Come on. Husker Du, Bob Mould, Sugar. Bob Mould would go on to form Sugar. Happy birthday, Bob Mould. Born on this day in 1960. American singer, songwriter, guitarist, and producer. Born on this day in 1962, Manute Bol. Sudanese American basketball player and activist. He died in 2010. Manute Bol. Born on this day also in 1962. Boy, oh boy, they're umbilical cousins. Not a whole lot of room in this uterus, huh? You got Manute Bol. And then also born on this day, Flea. Flea is an Australian-American bass player, songwriter, and actor. You may know him from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Didn't know he was Australian. I didn't know Flea was Australian. I don't know why it says it says Australian American. Are his parents? Was he born in Australia and just grew up here? He moved here when he was 2. One of those deals. I don't know. Born on this day in 1977, a guy that I have been working overtime trying to hate. I don't want to like this fella. I don't see anything beneficial to me in liking this guy. And yet every time I'm exposed to him, I'm like, okay, I guess I like him now. I've said that 50 times about our birthday boy. Born on this day in 1977, John Mayer. John Mayer. It's his music, his music isn't special, okay? His music that he plays and has hits with isn't special. It's disposable. Sounds like any number of... Really? You can tell me the difference between a Jack Johnson and a John Mayer? Really? They're all the same person. They're all doing the same kind of music. However, then you start to see things with John Mayer. You start seeing him in interviews and you're like, oh, fuck, he's funny. You're like, oh, no. He's handsome. He's funny. He writes completely forgettable songs, but still he's cashing checks on that. His life is good. And then you see him play guitar in a fish out of water situation where he's, strapped to an electric and he's playing metal leads. And it's holy fuck, John Mayer is an amazing guitarist. And then you see him and you're like, God damn, he could play like Eddie Van Halen. And then you see him again and he's doing a Buddy Guy tribute and he's trading licks with Buddy Guy and a whole bunch of blues legends. And you're like, shit, John Mayer is good. Then he tried to do stand-up. Do you remember when John Mayer tried to do stand-up? Oh, I was ready with the knives. And he was fucking hysterical. He was funny. So anyway, happy birthday, John Mayer. I still don't like you. I just don't know why. It's very confusing. Born on this day in 1992, baseball legend. That's right. I'm calling him a baseball legend already. The great Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper. I said that funny. Why did I say that funny? Bryce Harper. Born on this day in 1997. This is going to be the last of our birthday boys. This is a cool guy. I mention him because I like to mention cool guys because I am decidedly not a cool guy. But I like to still prove to the world that I can spot one and point him out when need be. Charles Leclerc. You want to know why he's a cool guy? First of all, the name is pretty cool. Charles Leclerc. And you got to pronounce it like that because he's not American. You better pronounce it the way he's supposed to pronounce it. Charles Leclerc. Okay? Very cool. Second of all, he's from, you know what he is? His place of birth, his nation of origin. He's known as a Monegasque. He's a Monegasque. Do you know what that means? That means he was born in Monaco, the south of France. That means he was born in the south of France. He lives in Monaco. He grew up in Monaco, the south of France. His name is Charles Leclerc. And he grows up and he's all handsome. He's real handsome. He's a real handsome young kid. Born on this day in 97. So what is he, 27, 28, something like that? You're oh my God, he's great. And of course, he's a Formula One driver. He drives Formula One. He's handsome. He's got a cool name. He's got an awesome job. He's a Formula One driver. He's from Monaco. His hometown is where James Bond rolls craps at midnight. It is just such a cool thing. And then he doesn't just drive Formula One. He drives for Ferrari. Oh, Charles Leclerc. Ferrari driver won. Charles Leclerc. He won Monaco this year. That was very cool. He won his hometown race this year in a Ferrari. Charles Leclerc. You think I have reason to hate John Mayer? I got reasons to hate Charles Leclerc as well. Born on this day in 1997. All right, let's move on to the deads. These are people who have died on this day. We'll quickly run through this list. I can tell you it is a formidable list. There are a lot of people who died on this day. These are celebrities who we are going to decide, did they go to heaven or did they go to hell? First and foremost, let's get this out of the way. Dead on this day in 1793, already mentioned Marie Antoinette. I don't care that she didn't actually say, let them eat cake. We are sending her off to hell as well. She's going to hell. Marie Antoinette. The people cut your head off, dude. That's, you know where you're going, okay? Dead on this day in 1992. Did she go to heaven or did she go to hell? A true triple threat. Or no, what do they call her? What do they call this? The not a hat trick, the Triple Crown. One of only 20 people to have won the Triple Crown of acting. She died on this day in 1992. Shirley Booth. You're like, who the hell is Shirley Booth? Oh, you know who Shirley Booth is. You just wait. Triple Crown of acting is you win an Oscar, you win an Emmy for TV, and then you win like Tonys for Broadway. I don't know if it's all that important anymore. I think we got a thing called an EGOT now. But anyway, back in the day, it was a big thing if you were a Triple Crown winning actor or actress, as the case may be. She would go on to play Hazel in the 1960s. Hazel was a TV show that was based around the domestic help. She was a maid. Hazel was the maid of a family. She was the star. She was the titular character in it. So, of course, it was the only show on television with a white domestic. Every other show had a black maid, except for the one where the maid was the star. That was Hazel. That was Shirley Booth. But here's why she's going to heaven. This is why we're putting her in heaven. Because Gen X will agree with me. Here's how we know her. We may not remember Hazel, but here's how we remember Shirley Booth and why she is going to heaven. Dude, she was Mrs. Claus in all of those, like, A Year Without a Santa Claus and, like, Santa Claus is coming to town and all that. She was Mrs. Claus. Remember how awesome Mrs. Claus was? Come on, Shirley Booth. She's going to heaven. Dead on this day in 1992. Dead on this day in 1997, Audra Lindley. 1997, Audra Lindley died. She was Mrs. Roper. She was horny. Remember, we talked about her a couple of weeks ago. It was her birthday. She was horny as hell. Mrs. Roper. Let's put her in heaven. Put her in heaven. She's got a whole bunch of young dudes, shirtless, ripped up, oiled angels walking around. She's in her element. We're putting Audra Lindley, Mrs. Roper, we're putting her in heaven. And I know we're supposed to put actresses in hell, right? But Shirley Booth, if you're an actor, like I say, actresses without any other information, actresses will probably just be banished to hell. But when we have other information, like Shirley Booth, she was an actress, sure, but she was also Mrs. Claus, and I loved Mrs. Claus as a kid, and I'm not putting Mrs. Claus in hell. Piss off. And then we get to somebody like Mrs. Roper. I like Mrs. Roper. I know she's an actress. I know Audra Lindley's an actress. She should go to hell. But as I said, I was not so much a fan as Three's Company as I was the Ropers. So sorry, Audra Lindley. She goes to heaven as well. Dead on this day in 1999, one of my favorite people. I talk about him all the time, at least twice a year, once on his birth, once on his death. He is Gene Shepard. He died on this day in 1999. Gene Shepard was an American radio host. He was a voiceover actor. He was a screenwriter. He is the narrator for A Christmas Story. Ralphie and his red rifle and all that. The voiceover, that is the great Gene Shepard. Gene Shepard is awesome. He died on this day in 1999. Dead on this day in 2000. He's going to heaven. Dead on this day in 2010. She played Beaver's mom, Barbara Billingsley from Leave It to Beaver. Putting her in hell, right? What do you know about Barbara Billingsley? She was on Leave It to Beaver, right? Okay, so that's all we know about Barbara Billingsley. Now we have to move on to prerequisites or, what do they call? Predetermined conditions. She's an actress. So we know she's already moving towards hell. Barbara Billingsley. She's moving towards hell. So what else do we know? She was on Leave It to Beaver. Did I watch Leave It to Beaver? I did not, because I'm not 70. She's going to hell. She's got to go to hell. Sorry. Dead on this day in 2011. We're going to put him in heaven just because Lionheart, the documentary about his life and death, so incredible on HBO Max, if you're so inclined. Dan Weldon, IndyCar driver Dan Weldon, dead on this day in 2011. I don't want to show it to you. We talked about it a while ago. When HBO Max put out that documentary, Lionheart, the Dan Weldon story, which talked about his kids, about how his little kids are now racing. And we showed the full footage from Las Vegas Speedway that day when the car accident, the wreck that took Dan Weldon's life. It's absolutely terrible. We don't need to do it again today. Dan Weldon, he's going to heaven. He seemed like a really good dude. It's always the really good ones, the really good dudes. All right, let's keep going. Today's show is executive produced by the great CC. Thank you, CC. Check out the Sports Bras, at Sports Bras or at the Sports Bras. I always get that wrong, and I should be more respectful by committing it to my memory and knowing it, but that's just not who I am. At least not in this moment. I'm going to try to be better. How's the chat room going? Al says, apparently false news about Jerry Jones. I didn't even see the real news. Oh, here we go. Breaking news. Jerry Jones will step down as general manager of the Dallas Cowboys after the 2024 season. Al now says that is apparently false news. Yeah, he ain't. Look, here's the long and the short of it. The way the game is managed, played, and governed managed has radically changed. I mean, there was a time when the owner of the team, George Halas, my Bears, right? The original team. George Halas was the owner. George Halas was the general manager. George Halas played on the team. George Halas was the coach. And then over the years, he was coach for like 50 years or something. Over the year, he stopped playing, and then and the game began to become, a moneymaker. And by the 1950s and 60s, the game was essentially being run by these old dudes who used to play it in the 20s. And they now owned the teams, and they were family-owned teams. And these were football people, and this is the game of football. And even though today, a guy like George Halas couldn't get a job in football. If George Halas came into football today the way he did back then, he was an outfielder for the New York Yankees. He was playing baseball, and he said, I'm going to try this football thing. And he became the founder of the NFL, or one of the founders. Anyway, like in the 70s and in the 80s, the 80s is when it started to change. But all throughout the 1970s, 60s, 50s, the game was a big sport. It was a big TV sport. There was money being made. People were getting rich playing and being associated with the sport. But it wasn't the NFL today. Those teams were all run by football people. And what made them football people was the sheer fact that they were around in 1920 when they signed the document saying, let's all play in a league together, right? Those were football people. Every team had general managers were, the Sun. The Chicago Bears had George Halas as the president, and then the general manager of the team. When they first decided they needed general managers, it was always like a kid. Here in Dallas, it would be Steven. It's like Jerry's the president and Steven's running the team. Then in the mid 1980s, the money became so big and winning became so important to the economic bottom line of these teams. And we're talking about, before the $1 billion stadium era, even. We're talking in the rapid growth era of the 1980s for the NFL. They started to realize that, there were people who were actually football experts who had matriculated through, and they weren't just, my idiot kid who grew up on the sideline watching football but didn't really love it because it was just the family business. And that's when the professional general manager began to come on board. The 1980s and the 1990s. And now every team in the league has a professional general manager except for, I believe, the Dallas Cowboys. And I always push back when people say they need a real football man. And the reason I told you that whole lead up to the story about the way it used to be is because, by any standard, Jerry Jones is absolutely a football man. Stop acting like he's not a football man. He knows football. He's been in charge of the Dallas Cowboys, the premier team in the National Football League. And I mean by branding and by bottom line cost, the premier team in football. He's been in charge of this team now for 40 years. He knows football. He's a football man. Stop insulting him. He's not just some guy with money who bought the team. He's been there, long enough. but he's old-minded. That's the problem. It's not that he's not a football guy and it's an embarrassment to the team. It's that he's not a modern football guy. He needs to hire a level of management that is between whoever is coaching on the sideline and whoever is up in the box with Jerry. There needs to be something in the middle there. You go out, you get a Chris Ballard, you go out and you get a, trying to think of anybody who's out there. Chris Ballard ain't out there. Although, think about that job. Think about in the offseason, because it won't happen this year. If it were to happen, and God, I hope it happens. I hope a professional general manager with a general manager's scout team and doing it his way, not the way the Cowboys have been doing it since, whenever. I want him to come in, a real general manager who has, real relationships. If you watch, I tell you, I watch all the Hard Knocks. I love the Hard Knocks. The real skill set there is a class of general managers in the NFL. There are a bunch of dudes who are all within the same age group. They go out to dinner and eat steaks at combines and pro days, and they all hang out, and they have great relationships, despite whatever rivalries may exist. That's all jocular fun. But this class of general managers, they get shit done because they all like each other, and they can pick up the phone, and they can talk to one another like equals, and they can fuck with them, and they can get deals done. Look at what might be going on today between the Los Angeles Rams and the Minnesota Vikings. Those are two general managers who used to work for one another. It's essentially the same coaching staff in Minnesota that was on the sideline when the Rams won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. So, that's an open level of communication. Hey, man, just thinking out loud, what if we were to offer you a second? What would you give us for that? These are the kinds of everyday conversations that general managers for every other team are pounding the phones on, just fucking around with each other, just throwing things at a wall. Jerry Jones can't do that. Jerry Jones can't do that because Jerry Jones sees himself above the general manager class. Do you think the other general managers, do you think they consider Jerry Jones one of them? No, he's of the owner class. And there's got to be a way for Jerry Jones to be able to bring in a professional general manager, step away from at least being the target of all the criticisms when things go bad, and still save some face. Look, he's fucking shameless. He's one of these shameless people, so he doesn't need to save face. This is just my own projection because I would think I would want to save face in some way. He doesn't need to. He's Jerry fucking Jones. And if people don't like it, as we heard on 105.3 the other day, if people don't like it, they can go kick rocks. Jerry fucking Jones. He's an emperor of his own universe. But he needs to understand that the game is being managed. Free agency is being managed. Salary caps. I'm sure the Cowboys have a guy from the Wharton School who's in their business room who handles all of their, salary cap and stuff. But is he as good as the real well-oiled machinery that runs all of the other teams' GM and scouting departments and accounting department? Is it the same, or is it just Jerry hiring his friends? Hey, my golfing buddy, his kid's been doing our salary cap for the last 10 years. He's great. Is he really, though? Or is he just your golfing buddy's friend's kid? I don't know that Jerry Jones looks at these things. I don't know that Jerry Jones sees how the modern NFL is a corporation and you need guys with doctorates at every level of your organization if you're going to compete. And he doesn't. It's just him and Steven, like goddamn Smokey and the Bandit. Just... I always think of Smokey and the Bandit whenever I think of Jerry and Steven. Adam Rader says the GM in Minnesota is from Chicago. I thought, Muhammad. What's his name? It's not Quasi Muhammad. No, it's whatever. I don't know. The whole coaching staff is former Rams guys. Okay, I'm just saying. I don't know. All right, so there you go. Thank you, Adam. So I didn't know that because I'm not as deep in the weeds with the Cowboys, but Adam just pointed out that it's Stephen Jones who is doing the cap management, which Stephen Jones, just not the best guy for the job for the most important thing that a team, I'm telling you, man, salary cap is super important. Look, my team is rebuilding. We're very excited about what we got going on, but we ain't there yet. And I can tell you, one of the reasons for our optimism is because of our supreme salary cap management since tearing down the team 3 years ago. We tore everything down. Khalil Mack gone. Everybody gone. Keem Hicks gone. Everybody gone. Eddie Jackson gone. Well, that was this year. But you know what I'm saying? If Kyle Fuller gone, everybody gone. All the expensive guys gone. David Montgomery gone. Allen Robinson gone. Everybody gone. We tore it all down and we sucked for 2 years. And then we brought in a new group and they have managed the salary cap. We have so much room in our salary cap. Next year we have the Chicago Bears still have a shit ton of picks from the cap. Well, actually, we got a second. We got multiple seconds. We got multiple thirds. We got to have a first. And we got a shit ton of salary cap still. So we can go out and we can get some big giant edge rusher or left tackle in free agency. That's because there are professionals. There are professional dorks who were brought in from outside the organization who don't happen to be the son of Jerry Jones. I can't imagine how Jerry Jones honestly believes his son Steven is the best for cap management. Quasi Adolfo Menza. That's it. There you go. That was him. Was he with the Bears? I thought he was with Philly. I think he came from Philly, or was he with the Bears? Was it because he was with the Bears under Pace? I don't know. Ryan Pace, who's terrible. Although the Cowboys could probably do okay. Watch Adam Pace become the general manager of the Cowboys. He's the guy who took Mitch Trubisky at number 2. So, he's now in Atlanta. He fell upward. He's now like a president in Atlanta. But he'll come back down to be the GM of the Cowboys. All right, that's enough of that. Let's get into all of the other things that are happening today. But we've got a lot of Cowboy stuff to get into. That wasn't even the whole Cowboy rant. We got to listen to it's the day after the Jerry Jones situation. So we're going to talk about all of that stuff as well. And we're going to listen to some audio. We got all kinds of stuff. First and foremost, though, the big story, Israel is happening. Nope, Israel is not happening. We are still sitting around waiting to see if World War III is going to break out. Will Israel respond to Iran? As of now, don't believe they have. Last night, Ted Cruz and Colin Allred had their big debate in Dallas last night. I watched it on YouTube for at least the first 15 minutes, and then I went, yeah, I don't like either of these guys, and I moved on. Ted Cruz is insufferable, and Colin Allred seems weird. There is like a sniper Manchurian candidate kind of lock-in intensity that Colin Allred has that makes me feel very uncomfortable. Seriously, like you look at him, he's just super intense, and it comes off as, come on, man, just a little bit too, I don't know, but maybe that's the football, maybe that's the middle linebacker, maybe that's the professional NFL Tennessee Titan linebacker in him. I don't know. It's just, was there a winner? I don't know. Yeah, there was a winner. Whoever you want to win is who won, because that's how we do things now. We don't actually have any measurement. We don't accept any fact of victory or loss. It's just, if you're a Ted Cruz person, he kicked his ass. And if you're a Colin Allred person, he kicked his ass, because nothing is real anymore. Big news being announced this morning. I'm not sure if there's anything more on it since we signed on here, but the Menendez trial, which we've been talking, the Menendez boys, we've been talking about this possibility of not a new trial, but a resentencing. Let's see what we have. Today in Los Angeles, this is why it is so good for look, guys, the Menendez brothers are going to walk. They're going to be home for Christmas. I promise you, they're going to be home for Christmas. And it's so weird because it's not like the Netflix miniseries that is coincidentally airing right now. It's not like that miniseries paints a picture of two guys that America is now going, they should be out. No, they're painted like jagoffs. But somehow, coincidentally, I don't know what this is about, but their case is back not only in the headlines of gossip and TV watchers, but it's actually back in the courthouses. Bombshell note written by Eric Menendez has been shared, then deleted by LADA Links dad to sex abuse every night he might come in. Okay, so here's what's happening. So back in 1991, there was evidence that was supposedly in support of Eric and Lyle Menendez's claim that they were systematically and routinely sexually abused by the father, and that's the reason why they killed him. All that evidence, or much of that evidence, was not allowed in the first trial. The narrative was they were just greedy, ungrateful little rich kids, and get them. So that's what happened, and they went to jail for 34 years without the possibility of parole. No death. They took the death penalty off the table, but life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. So in recent months, some of the evidence, and probably because of the interest in the miniseries and all that, but because of this, some of the evidence has come back to light. And it's been brought back up, and now it's in the public sphere. And the district attorney in Los Angeles, who wasn't the district attorney then, he is forced to confront this. This is, court of public opinion. This is shit that apparently the DA's office back in 1990, whatever, totally ignored in their pursuit of getting a conviction in a high-profile celebrity case. So what is this evidence? Apparently, back around the time of the murders or before the murders, Eric Menendez wrote a letter to a family member in which he talked about, help us, help me. This is happening. This is happening to both of us. It happens all the time. Dad is a monster, blah, blah, blah. So there's that. And by the way, this is one of the reasons why the family of the Menendez brothers have kind of stood by him. They're like, yeah, we don't think they should have their lives thrown away. It was a terrible situation. They've kind of stood by him. That letter was not allowed into evidence. That letter proving, before the murders and before all of this stuff, proving that Eric was open and sharing with family members about these things that were happening, was not allowed in. Also not allowed in back in 1991 that the new DA is looking at. Apparently, their father was sued, or there was an attempt to sue their father because a member of Menudo, you remember Menudo? Remember the band Menudo? The boy, they were all young boys. The band, his company like managed Menudo, like owned Menudo, like he was like one of the bosses of Menudo. A member of Menudo sued him and accused him of rape. Like a member, like that was not allowed in 1990, whatever, when the trial was. That story, that background, the little piece of background against the dead father was not allowed in. And so now the DA in California is looking at all this stuff and going, yeah, we gotta kind of. So here's the ask. In light of the new information, the family of the Menendez boys, and the Menendez boys themselves, I'm sure, are asking the DA, because the DA has to do this, they are asking the DA, in light of this evidence, and now that it's public that it wasn't allowed in back then, in light of this evidence, would the DA please ask a judge if resentencing is a possibility? Okay, so that's the ask. It's a pretty big ask, except for the DA in California went, yeah, I think, and he had a press conference this morning where he came out and he said, we're going to go to the judge and we're going to tell the judge that, this evidence is evidence that we would in today's world would be admitted and blah, blah, blah. And so they're going to ask for resentencing. So how does that lead to them being let out? Well, because their sentence was life without the possibility of parole, and they have been there for 34 years. Whatever the resentencing is based on this new evidence is probably going to be less than 34 years, which means they've served their time. They're gonna walk. Crazy. And it's so crazy because I hadn't thought about these brothers in probably 25 years since they were a big topic back in the 90s. Hadn't given them one thought. And now all of a sudden in the last couple of months, it's Menendez. And boy, oh boy, they're going to get out. Crazy. All right, let's move on. Let's see here. Put this up if you would like to support this kind of talk radio. Drop a tip. I'll leave that up. There you go. Thank you to CC, our executive producer today. Sorry, I'm just reading a couple of the chat room comments. All right, let's get into it. Come on, here we go. Sorry, get back in. Hey, Kamala's pro weed. There you go. All right. I said months ago it was going to be a race. Which one of these people are going to come out and say, I'm going to federally legalize weed with the stroke of an executive order? I said, that's an easy one, man. I'm surprised that Trump didn't do this one first, but he didn't. Kamala got the weed thing. Why? Why is Kamala doing the weed? Why is Kamala suddenly, fine with legalization? Well, one, probably in her heart of hearts, she's been fine with legalization for a long time. Like most normal people, it's should be legalized. I mean, if we can buy beer, whiskey, tequila, vodka, if we can buy all that shit, why can't we buy something that is, for many people, inherently less harmful and far more enjoyable? But anyway, moving on. Kamala has come out. She is now going to say that she is, well, here's why, okay? So Kamala wants Kamala right now, for some reason, Trump is really going after black dudes, and apparently he's doing well. Apparently Trump's doing well with black dudes, and Kamala's like, "Hey, black dudes aren't voting for me." Well, apparently, I guess black. What are we saying about black dudes? Are y'all misogynists? You won't vote for a woman? Come on. So she's going after black dudes, and they think, and yeah, they're damn right, this is an issue that might resonate with black dudes. Vote for the woman who is going to make it legal now for you to have your pot. Because there are a lot of places in this country that do not have legalized marijuana. I think it should come at the federal level. Let the states decide. No, I don't. No. I hate this whole thing. This states should decide everything. No, they shouldn't. No, they shouldn't. Ted Cruz said yesterday, during the debate, he said something like, I believe that the state should decide what the laws are for the people who live there and not the federal government. And I heard him say that, and I go, oh, you just want to be balkanized, right? Because I believe in a federal government. I know that makes me a bad guy, but you can tell I never watch Fox News, so I don't have all the implanted bullshit about how evil a federal government is. I love a federal fucking government. I love the United States of America. I got a flag behind me. I think that all of us can have our cultural differences and our cool little unique states and all that kind of shit. But on the important stuff, if you're married in Boston, you should be fucking married in Nebraska, because that's one of the protections that come with being a federalized citizen. We're a great country. We're the strongest country in the fucking world. And you people want to just be balkanized? Jews aren't allowed to live in this state. What are you? How far is this going to go? Abortion should be federalized. That's a thing that protects women. Sometimes a woman who lives in a state where it's free for her to have that choice over her body, sometimes she may find herself for an extended period of time, college, a job, whatever, in a state that has different views on those kinds of things. The protections of being in a federal system mean that that woman has the same rights and protections that she has in Vermont, that she can have in Alabama. That's what a federal system is. And half of you people are out there acting like we're fucking monsters. I love the United States of America, governed under one federal constitution, you fucking traitors. Get out. The big government. I agree. Big government is bad. A manageable federal system of government is the way to go. I mean, I don't know. Unless you want Wisconsin and Minnesota going to war, right? Is that what you want? You don't think that's going to happen? Oh, shit. Ohio's invading Tennessee again. I know we were planning on going to New York for the weekend, but we can't fly over the central United States because the balkanization has begun. Stop it, you morons. It's the federal government that keeps this whole thing together. I just want to be an individual. Look at me going off on it. This is why we need legalized weed, so that we can all just chill the fuck out. All right, the pandas are here. We talked about this yesterday. The pandas made their way to this country. We're all fucking panda crazy. I love pandas. Let me ask you this, chat room. Quick question for the chat room. And I know this is coming hard off my my chant, my pro federal government chant. Let me ask you this: are pandas the coolest animals? I know. You gotta get. Pandas seem to be the coolest animal. Like if there was like a party, like if all the animals threw a party, let's do Noah's Ark. If they threw a big party, like who would be like the belle of the ball? It would be a panda, right? Like pandas they're rare. We don't see them a lot. They're exotic. They seem nice, right? I don't know. Are they nice? They're fucking bears. So I don't know how nice pandas really are, but They seem nice. What do you got? What's the competition for the coolest animal? What is the panda's biggest competition for the coolest animal? And don't tell me bear or lion. Those are a dime a dozen. They're all over the place. Although lions are pretty cool. Lion. Okay, I'll take an argument for a lion. So you got pandas. They're the coolest. Kangaroos, right? Kangaroos are right behind pandas as being like fucked up cool animal. Byron, where you been? Sports Bra says pandas are a hard second next to the sloth. See? The sloth. That's a good pull. Good pull from the chat room. Here's the issue, though. The sloth is a cool animal, right? I just don't know that the sloth is the coolest. I mean, the name itself, sloth, that's a derogatory name. Sloths don't sound or look like something you want to cuddle with on a cold night, right? A panda does. A kangaroo does. Tell me you want to spoon with a kangaroo? I don't know if you want to do that with a sloth. Barney says he's going with the honey badger as the coolest animal. Al knows. Al says kangaroo. I think the pecking order is panda is number one. Kangaroo is number two. And then, just because I love America, I'm going to go with the armadillo. I think the armadillo is going to be number three in the coolest animals. Because these are also animals that, like, you know, okay, so here's one of the things. Like people who have never seen the animal before have to look at it and not know, like, what it is at all. Like if you looked at a kangaroo, like if you came from another planet, no, let's just say you've never seen it. Let's say you're from this planet, but you've never seen a kangaroo. Okay, so you see a kangaroo, you wouldn't be like, well, that's obviously part dog. That's obviously that's like feline, right? So that's a cat of some kind. No, you wouldn't know. You'd look at a kangaroo and you go, what the fuck? I don't know what the hell that is. That is like. Same thing with a panda, because you might be like, the only reason you call a panda bear a bear is because that's what they call it. They call it a panda bear. But if it was just called a panda and they said, okay, here, now this exotic animal, this is a panda, I don't know if we'd immediately go, oh, that's a bear. I might be like, oh, that's a sheepdog. You know, I might, oh, that's a, I don't know. The manatee, Al is voting for the manatee as a pretty cool animal. I'm going to say that the manatee is not allowed in this conversation because that seems to be an amphibious animal. I mean, my God, if we're going with manatees, why not introduce the narwhal? Because the narwhal is the coolest animal in the sea. It's not even close. Coolest animal in the sea. Yes, the sperm whale has the most awesome name. But the narwhal, the Arctic narwhal, is the coolest animal in the sea. Have you ever say it's like a unicorn dolphin? It's like a dolphin with the long narwhals are the fish with the big long spikes on their faces. They're awesome. All right, that's it. That wasn't even a subject. It was just the more video of the pandas arriving, and I went, instead of doing that, let's just talk about how cool pandas are, because everybody seems to be very, very jazzed up about the pandas. All right, now let's get into oh boy, hold on a second. Let's do this. Yeah, all right, it's time. Need our drink. We're going to get into all the Jerry Jones stuff now. The Jerry Jones, of course, we covered this extensively yesterday, but we didn't have all the blowback. We're going to listen to some audio. We're going to hear what some people have to say. Look, I'm not going to delve into the national people. I don't give a shit what Shannon Sharp has to say about this situation. Those folks are what we like to call out-of-town stupid, okay? I want to hear from the local people, and we've got a whole bunch of local people checking in with their response to what occurred yesterday. So what occurred yesterday? Just to catch you up, Jerry John went on Jerry John. Now I'm hungry. Now I want a Jerry John's. Jerry Jones, owner of these here Cowboys, went on a local radio station, 105.3 The Fan, the Sean, and RJ show. I always call him Shan. And it was for his weekly hit. Every week after a game, Jerry Jones goes on and he chops it up with the boys. And it's, the reputation for, I will say this, 105.3 The Fan's reputation as a place for Cowboy news, at the street level is not a very good reputation. Most people just assume that they're in the pocket of the Cowboys and it's the Cowboy station and you're never going to get any real commentary about the Cowboys and blah, blah, blah. So that's all kind of been accepted, something that I've operated under, an assumption that I've been okay with for 10 years. But yesterday something happened. After another particularly humiliating loss for the Dallas Cowboys in front of the home field, this is, by my count, the third humiliating blowout loss this year, right? Something like that. Jerry Jones went on his for his weekly radio hit, and the questions were a little bit harder and a little bit more direct than they had been in the past, and Jerry Jones didn't take it well. And long story short, he essentially threatened the jobs of the people who are asking him the questions. He also challenged them with phrases like, "It's not your job to ask me these questions," which is, for me, a guy who has worked in the media, is just so incredibly offensive. Who do you think you're talking to? It's not my job. That is exactly my job. My job is to make you be as honest about what the rest of us are seeing as I possibly can get you to be. That is my job, Jerry. So Jerry Jones, here's what people think happened, and I love this. I love this. It's such a smart, and I don't know who said it. I think maybe Sean or RJ, they were talking about it today. But the idea was that Jerry Jones did this hit yesterday while sitting on his plane, getting ready to go to the league offices, right? League meetings. So he gets into this fiery conversation yesterday with Sean and RJ on 105.3. He gets into his private jet, flies across the country to the NFL owners' meetings, and upon landing, Diana Rossini, who is a terrific NFL writer and newsbreaker and all of that stuff, she got Jerry Jones as he's stepping off the plane, and she asked him for a response. Cowboys owner Jerry Jones to Diana Rossini says, on getting angry this morning during his weekly radio interview. Here's what he had to say. After, remember, gets into the shouting match with them on the phone, hangs up, says to his pilot, "Let's go," phones off, flies for 3 hours, lands. NFL reporters descend on him. They ask him about it, and he says, "I don't know that I would go as far as calling the volume connotation as yelling," because they said he was yelling. Okay, but the facts are that if I'm going to be grilled by the tribunal, I don't need it to be by the guys I'm paying. I can take it from fans and I can take it from other people. I take a lot of pride in how fair and how much I try to work with the media. We're brothers and sisters, but I was a little frustrated there today. The wrong ones were doing the questioning. Now, if those had been real fans sitting there, or if there had been people that knew what they were talking about, football people, I might have had a different answer. So that's how he responds to Diana Rossini. He was feeling himself after the couple-hour flight on the private jet after slamming the phone down with Sean and RJ. My point, and keep pointing to that, is this. Jerry Jones, for 2-3 hours, was up in an airplane and had no idea how the world reacted to what he had done, especially the NFL world. They were destroying him. So it's why it was so interesting when he stepped off the plane and Diana Rossini asked him this question. Nobody had gotten to him. Nobody. Why? Because there isn't a professional management system within the Dallas Cowboys who can warn Jerry Jones, "Hey, this broke bad on you while you were in the air. Don't say shit. Certainly don't be provocative." And that's exactly what he did. He opens up the can of worms again, doubling down on the thing that he had no idea was catching fire on the socials. See, Jerry doesn't understand, and he will learn very quickly something that a lot of men of his age and younger have been learning over the last couple of years, and that is the rules are different now, old man. You don't get to threaten DJ's jobs and think that that is going to just not be talked about by millions of people on social media. And then because he was probably disconnected in the flight, he just starts running his mouth again because he ain't heard anything about, "Yeah, I felt pretty good. I told them." He's asked this question and he just says something fucking stupid because, again, either nobody got to him in time to say, "Jerry, this thing over the past 3-4 hours, it has really caught fire. You got ESPN going off on you. You got Pat McAfee going off on you. You got the entire Twitter sphere going off on you. So he's a dummy. He's a dummy, and he's just an old guy who needs to recognize that the game is different. He can't do this anymore. He has no idea how to play the social media game. You know who does? A 38-year-old general manager. You know who does? Some dude who works in the Kansas City front office who's probably 39 and he's like second assistant GM. Bring that fucker in. Jerry, he's not going to threaten people's jobs on the radio like a dummy who still thinks at the end of the day his money will win out. That is not how it works anymore. He has embarrassed the NFL. He has embarrassed the Shield by acting like Burgermeister Meisterburger. I deem that you, Sean, and you, RJ, will no longer be employed. Oh, my God. You used to be able to get away with that. A couple of years ago, you could get away with that. You cannot get away with that shit anymore. So let's turn now to the local side of things. Let's see how local media, we know how national media, everybody in the national media has chimed in on this. Well, Mike Leslie, local guy, WFAA. I love Mike Leslie. Here he is checking in on his take on everything that happened yesterday with, of course, 105.3, Jerry Jones, and all of that. Check this out. A little bit of a local content.
Cowboys owner Jerry Jones, the center of the sports world today, and not in a good way after going off in his weekly radio hit on 105.3 The Fan. Clearly frustrated with his team's 47-9 loss on Sunday against the Lions and looking like they are miles away from bona fide contention. Well, today, in his weekly radio show on The Fan, he was asked a series of perfectly rational but direct questions about the construction of his football team and how they've ended up with this roster. He didn't take kindly to it.
This is not your job. Your job isn't to let me go over all the reasons that I did something and I'm sorry that I did it. That's not your job. Or I'll get somebody else to ask these questions, man. I'm not kidding you. You're not going to figure out what the team is doing right or wrong. If you are, or any 5 or 10 like you, you need to come to this meeting I'm going to today. There are 32 teams here. You're geniuses.
For him to say that, get a laugh, and then double down and make it clear, yes, that was a threat, that is petulant behavior from an 82-year-old man who isn't getting his way. It is absolutely their job to ask you hard questions, Jerry, and credit to Sean and RJ and Bobby Belt for not backing down in the face of that, because we know Jerry isn't kidding. He's done this before in the 90s with Dale Hansen and Brad Sham. He probably could get them fired. He shouldn't. They did nothing wrong, and he's showing himself to be a fundamentally small person to threaten such a thing, but he probably could. He can't fire the rest of us, though, and until his team starts winning more games, the questions will all sound the same. Cowboys owner Jerry Jones, the center of the sports world.
How about that? I like a guy not afraid of Jerry Jones in this market. That ought to show you right there how much it has changed. He referenced 2 people who had very high-profile run-ins with Jerry Jones over the years. Brad Sham, the delightful Brad Sham, the voice of the goddamn Cowboys, an icon in this part of the world, the great Bradley Sham. Chicago guy. Just pointing that out. Bradley Sham, Chicago guy. So he referenced Brad Sham and his very high-profile run-in with Jerry Jones, and you know how they went sideways. But then he also mentioned Dale. I couldn't think of Dale Hansen's name. The very famous Dale Hansen War, where Dale Hansen was essentially fired from his gig with the Cowboys because of Jerry Jones. So Jerry Jones has a track record of what's going on with. Look at this. What's going on? Oh, you know what's happening? I just noticed it. I'm like, Jesus guy all of a sudden. That's the sun. 2:00. The sun is right. Oh, and there's a sunlight at the top. Look at that sunlight. It's, What if I do this? Can I turn this light up? Does this change anything? Hold on. I don't know now. Is that too dark? Well, we're just going to keep going. It doesn't matter. I hate that the light is like this right. Although that's kind of cool. I kind of like that. I don't know. All right, we'll leave this on. So yeah, okay. So local media isn't afraid of him anymore. And I think that is the strength in numbers thing, where a local media guy goes out, he says things and mimics the fans. That's what the fans want to hear. There are millions of Dallas Cowboy fans that will rally behind anybody like that, Mike Leslie. And I got to take Jerry Jones' side. Jerry Jones certainly at the end of the day owns the team, but the worth and the value of that team is really all he cares about. And if suddenly fans are turning on the team to the extent that they are done as long as he's involved, maybe he'll get the message. Maybe that's what needs to happen, but it ain't gonna happen. See, yeah, we enable him. We enable Jerry Jones to keep going because next year the Cowboys are gonna be great. He'll go out and make one trade, and like some guy who was really good 5 years ago, but is a big name, will come to the Cowboys and will be like, "We're winning the Super Bowl." It's like, what? Come on. All right, so let's keep going here. I want to play more of a reaction to Jerry Jones. How about this one? Our old friend Jeff Kavanaugh, the great Jeff Kavanaugh over at DLLS, which is Dallas's new digital content for sports. If you like local sports and all that stuff, DLLS is great. Here is Jeff Kavanaugh from yesterday responding to what he saw happen at his old stomping ground. That's the 1053. That's his place. That's the house that he was a part of building. So he has, insider knowledge of what's going on over there. Let's listen to what Jeff Kavanaugh had to say about the Jerry Jones situation yesterday locally. Again, a local guy who in years past should be frightened of speaking this way about Jerry Jones. Not anymore.
Let's have a little fun just for 2 seconds. You don't want to know the check that I would write. Bulls, pay Ben Johnson $15 million a year to be your head coach. Pay Robert Saleh $15 million a year to be your defensive coordinator. Stop being the general manager of the football team and go win a Super Bowl.
No. Keep going. I like when you get like this.
Now he's going to threaten my job. The ultimate test.
Yeah.
And he couldn't answer this honestly. Jerry, if I guarantee you win the Super Bowl next year, but the Dallas Cowboys are 17th in the NFL in jersey sales, clicks, eyeballs, and the net worth of the team does not go up. You want that Super Bowl? Absolutely not. There's no chance he trades that for a Super Bowl. I'm sure he'd write a really big check to win it his way.
All right. That's pretty good, too. Oh, hold on. I keep forgetting to do that when I make it smaller. Jeff Kavanaugh over at DLLS talking about it. Now, buried the lead here. Today was a very big day for 105.3, my old pal Gavin Spittle's little radio station over there, because all eyes in the sports universe, at least, from sea to shining sea here in America, were trained on what will Sean and RJ have to say this morning. I bet they had the biggest numbers for their show. And, you can check that in real time now. You have the ability to see how many people are actually listening. I bet there was a massive, massive audience for Sean and RJ today. So here, now let's just listen to some of this. I don't know how much of this we're going to listen to. I mean, it's extensive. The entire clip is 18 minutes. I don't think I'm going to dedicate a full 18 minutes to this, but let's just sit around and let's listen to this. This is now the day after. These are the guys whose jobs were threatened. These are the guys who, in the moment, tried to laugh it off. They just, let's ease the tension here, Jerry. And then Jerry was like, I ain't kidding. You ought, They're worried, and rightfully so. Because in that world that I just described to you of only a couple of years ago, Jerry Jones had the absolute power that he could kill you. He could get rid of your career. He could finish you in this town. But because of social media, and we always talk about the bad things about social media, well, maybe there are some good things. We can now, the peasants, with our pitchforks and our flaming, just torches, and our flaming torches, we now have a place that we can gather, and we can come and we can take the big behemoth down in ways that we never could. So Shannon and RJ were probably very worried yesterday when their show was over. They thought, oh my God, is Jerry going to call the president of this radio company? Oh my God, what's going to happen for us? And then they started to see a pretty amazing thing happen in the hours after, and that was universal support for them from everyone, where it's so extreme. It's like, you're not allowed to defend Jerry Jones on this, and nobody is. He's out there on an island. And by the way, this was happening while Jerry was in his plane flying to the owners' meeting. So when he landed, he had no idea that the tide had turned so heavily against him. And I believe it's Shannon RJ who first brought up that theory. And I'm like, yeah, I like that. As soon as I found out he was flying to the owners' meeting, I'm like, oh, he's going to get crushed by reporters. But I didn't think he would be out of the loop. I hadn't considered that. So, okay, so let's get a listen here. This is Sean and RJ. These are the guys who Jerry Jones fired their job or threatened to fire them from their jobs yesterday. And the entire sports world from coast to coast came to their rescue. Let's hear how they addressed the situation today. Shannon RJ, courtesy of 105.3 FM, The Fan.
In case you missed things yesterday, here is a little clip of Jerry Jones getting a little worked up over talking about the state of his football team with us.
We can go into this. I'm saying what I'm saying. Don't tell me what I'm saying.
Okay.
You listen to what I'm saying.
Jerry, why are you getting so mad at us? We're just asking you why the blowouts are happening, the historical differences at home. We're just asking about it on behalf of the fans, and you're getting real ticked off and mad at us. We're just
I'm not. Hey, can I tell you something, guys? I don't get mad at people that I can not be with if I don't want to be with. I don't get mad. You're asking me for a response, and I'm giving you a response. We got to play better, and we got to play better at specific points. No, there's no looking for.
Okay, hold on a second. Is anybody else fascinated by what he just said there? Can we unpack that a little bit, what Jerry Jones just said there? Because I heard him say it, and then I went, huh. Okay, something about I don't get mad at people I don't have to be with? Is that what it is?
At us. We're just asking you why the blowouts are happening, the historical differences at home. We're just asking about it on behalf of the fans, and you're getting real ticked off and mad at us. We're just
I'm not. Hey, can I tell you something, guys? I don't get mad at people that I can not be with if I don't want to be with.
I don't get mad at people. I don't understand what he's saying there. What is he saying? Is he saying that he's doing them a favor? But it doesn't matter.
I don't get mad. You're asking me for a response, and I'm giving you a response. We got to play better, and we got to play better at specific points. No, there's no looking for stepping out here and bringing in 20 new players between now and the bye. That's not the way it works.
So things were kind of calm, except for the reaction, like on all the shows and everything, and all the awesome messages from Tolos. Nothing from the Cowboys, nothing from the bosses. And then last night, in case you missed it, Jerry Jones tells Diana Rossini after the owners' meetings that I don't need to be grilled by those guys.
If you knew that $5 could help you kick Ted Cruz out of the Senate, wouldn't it be the best $5 that you've ever spent?
No.
I'll take it from...
I refuse to pay for premium YouTube, okay? We're going to have pop-ups from time to time. Are you happy, Colin Allred, you 20-yard stare psycho?
Real fans or real football people. I may have had a different answer, and I don't need to be getting that from the flagship station. And that really threw us all for a loop. Here's my theory on that. It's just a theory. I don't know. My theory is that Jerry Jones talked to us before getting on his private plane. He landed. He was 1 minute before, 1 minute early to the owners' meetings. He went inside the meetings.
You're on time, you're late.
They last all day long. Cowboy reporters would kill for that timing from McCarthy's pressers. He goes into the meeting. He's in there with the other owners. And by the way, Jerry took that little shot at us as well, saying, you guys think you're so smart. You know, you're not one of the owners. You need to be coming to this meeting. You be one of the football.
I mean, he invited us. I mean, I was like, okay. I mean, I'll go. I mean, I'll talk.
Can I make one observation here? And this is just totally random and has nothing to do with the subject at hand. I'm not crazy, right? These dudes all look identical, right? Right? These guys all look the same. Like they're like I don't know who that, like, I don't know these guys. Well, I know that they've been names. They've been around for a while. I don't know them. They seem like nice dudes. I have mutual acquaintances and they say nice things. So, but they look the same. These two dudes are three of them. They're like three variations of the same wildly uninspired modern male look. It's just like, it's the same. They look exactly the same. And then you look at me. I'm exactly the same. What is going on with us? What is going on with the modern male? Are these uninspired? What can I do? I don't know what I can do. I'm bald. I take the hat off. I can be bald and be more interesting. Maybe. I don't know. These guys, they look identical, these dudes.
About the 31 other people.
So all hell breaks loose, and Jerry gets absolutely annihilated and criticized.
You know what I'm going to start calling it? I'm going to start referring to it as Groob's disease. They all have Groob's disease. We all look like variations of Groob's. Seriously. Dallas radio, if you're a white man over 40, you are looking in some way, shape, or form. It's like we're all Mongoloid brothers. We're all Groob's. We all suffer from Groob's disease.
Size from the entire world. He walks out and he doesn't know. He's not getting those updates. He's talking about league business. Bobby, have you ever been to the owners' meetings? Or do you know the setup in terms of reporters like waiting for you to walk out of those doors?
So I haven't been there specifically, but yeah, a lot of times it's there. If there's a certain, ballroom they're meeting in or something at a hotel, they're posted up in a hallway or they're sitting there waiting in a lobby and they're just waiting to catch somebody walking by and stop them.
So everyone was waiting for like Mark Davis after the Devontae trade, right? Well, Diana Rossini, I believe, got Jerry Jones walking out. Jerry he doubled down, tripled down on these comments with even more insults towards us. And my theory is Cowboy PR, Tad, did not get a chance to brief him on the world's reaction before he talked to Rossini. That's my theory. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. That someone did not get to him and be like, hey, just to let you know, you're getting taken apart here. Threatening jobs, belittling, small, petty, whatever the Tolos.
All right, once again, and let me remind you why, and I happen to agree with him here. I do think that that's the chink in the armor, the misstep in whatever this organization is. They didn't have somebody who was bringing him up to speed on everything, especially PR-related stuff for a guy that oversees the world's most expensive sports team. Why? Why was it? Because they're not a real organization. Because they're not a real modern corporate football team. They're Jerry Jones and his idiot kids making all the decisions, acting like it's still 1950 and the competition is George Halas and Curly Lambeau. It's fucking silly. Of course they're not going to have all the bells and the people with the updates and all that. No, it's just Jerry and his boys. God, that's just another indication of why this team needs to modernize. And you know what's really the irony here is that for years, I'd say between 1978 and maybe 1996 or 7, the Cowboys were the modern incarnation of what an NFL team was supposed to be. The Cowboys did all the innovative stuff first, all of it. And now they're just like... Now they're like the Bears in the 1970s under a senile George Halas. Hey, you know what? It's funny when you look at it that way. Because George Halas and the Chicago Bears, there was a time for about 30 years where they were the most innovative team in the game. They invented the forward pass, for crying out loud. So were the Cowboys. The Cowboys were seen as that's where the latest and the greatest ideas are being hatched. Man, I'm here to tell you that stuff went away maybe with Switzer. I don't know. That is not who the Cowboys are anymore. Let's go back to this. We're listening to Sean and RJ respond. This was them this morning responding to yesterday's big incident with Jerry Jones on their show.
We're saying yesterday, that's the only thing that makes sense to me because for him to come out multiple times and basically say, I'll set up state-run media the way I want it to be run and get the questions that I want to be asked, that's the thing that has boggled my mind the most because that's not Jerry Jones, y'all. I'm telling you, I'm being objective. Yes, Jerry, came at us, tried to embarrass us yesterday, but I'm still going to be fair about it and honest. Jerry Jones doesn't pay us, and Jerry Jones does not dictate and control where the interviews go with the questions. So for him, multiple times yesterday, to want to give off the appearance.
There's a rhythm in the markets. And if you want to learn to listen for it, we'll show you how.
Here's what we're going to do. 5 seconds. 1, 2.
That he is.
All right. Let me just jump in here for a second. As a matter of fact, I'll even make this smaller. So I'll explain it this way, because I kind of explained it yesterday. Jerry Jones does not own the Odyssey outlet. WLLI, is that what they are? Their number. Jerry Jones does not own the Fan. Okay, Odyssey does. Odyssey. A couple of years ago, were a company called Entercom. Before that, they were a company called Infinity. Before that, they were a company called CBS Radio. It's all the same. They just changed names for whatever reorganizational purpose. I don't know. But whatever. It's all the same. Jerry Jones doesn't own that. Jerry Jones owns the Dallas Cowboys. In Dallas, let's talk more micro, okay? Here in Dallas, in the universe of sports radio wars, there was always the ticket, and the ticket was left alone for a long time. And then I think ESPN moved in, and the ticket just kicked the crap out of ESPN and their national programming. But that's okay. ESPN stuck around for a little bit. Then 105.3 went away, and they launched a new CBS sports talker. CBS is big in the sports talk game. CBS has major sports talkers in every major market in America. we're calling it Odyssey now. Odyssey knows sports talk the way nobody else does, right? Just at the corporate level, being able to churn out money-making sports talk stations, whether it's WFAN in New York or the Score in Chicago or the Fan here in Dallas. They know what they're doing. Jerry Jones does not own them. Now, in Dallas, we have the ticket, who is sort of like an outlier, a unicorn in sports radio. They're like the most important station in the market, not just the most important sports station. They're the most important station in the market. Everybody goes to the ticket for everything. It's an important station. So 105.3, the Fan, CBS's radio station, their sports radio station, they can't compete with the ticket, and they know. I think maybe in the beginning they thought they could give it a run for the money, but they know that's a juggernaut. They're just going to have to sort of carve out their own little space in the Dallas-Fort Worth radio media. And so what they did was they hitched their wagon to the Dallas Cowboys, knowing that the most important sports entity in this metroplex is the Dallas Cowboys. They decided to just hitch their whole wagon to them. So it's become their identifier. 105.3 The Fan, under Gavin Spittle, has become one of the most important sports talk stations in America, although not even close to being the most popular in its own city. But as far as breaking major NFL news, the ticket doesn't break anything. 105.3 does. You never see on ESPN, Sports Center, you never see this comes courtesy of the ticket in Dallas. No, you hear comes courtesy of the Fan. That's one of the benefits of having your wagon hitched to the Cowboys, is that you get to be the flagship and you get all of the important stuff that comes with it. What comes with it? Respect. Absolutely. Regard. Yeah. Not a lot of listeners. Advertising dollars. You know why? Because you may not have the number one most listened to midday show Monday through Friday. You may not have the number one listened to morning show or afternoon show. And those are all things that, that's a problem. But guess what you have on Sundays for 17 weekends a year? You've got, in radio terms, a Super Bowl type number. We win. The team or the station that has the Dallas Cowboys during a Cowboys game is dominating every other radio station 1,000 to 1. I promise you. So that's why you do it. It's one day a week, 17 weeks a year. All that money you can make in commercials and live reads just for your radio station in that throwaway Sunday. So Explained all that to you. So Jerry Jones doesn't own Odyssey. Jerry Jones doesn't have anything to do directly with hiring and firing Sean and RJ. But the truth is that the Dallas Cowboys are the most important thing at that radio station. That morning show is not as important to that radio station's identity and entire being as an association with the Dallas Cowboys is. So what we have to do is we have to say, okay, on paper, you're right. There is no direct influence. Jerry Jones can't say, well, you're fired, clean out your desk to them in the middle of an interview. But what he can do is, as I suggested yesterday, they might not get re-signed on their next deal. I don't know how far away that is. Yeah, they probably, especially now after the way that people have responded coast to coast in the defense of Sean and RJ, they won't get fired. They can't get fired. That'd be insane. That would be really bad for sports journalism in general and this station. So that's not going to happen. But they might not get re-signed. 18 months from now, if they have a contract that they got to come up with and everything couldn't be great, that's the kind of shit that people like Jerry Jones do. They can wait you out. They'll say, you know what, I'm not going to make a big deal about this, but when's their contract up? You don't think Jerry Jones knows about contracts? When's their contract up? All right, here's what's going to happen. You're not going to resign them. You're going to have a new morning. And the station would do that. The station would absolutely do that. The station would absolutely agree to not sign them to their next deal. And Jerry and the Cowboys will re-sign with the station for another 4 years or whatever it is. So when they say that Jerry Jones isn't our boss, they're right. He's not. Directly. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, but let's live in the real world, boys, okay? Be careful.
It's not as interesting. And Jerry Jones does not dictate and control where the interviews go with the questions. So for him, multiple times yesterday, to want to give off the appearance that he is not as media, as big of a media treat as he's been, and not Dan Snyder with his radio stations in DC, it blows my mind. Now, a couple people have given theories. They said, yes, Jerry knows he doesn't own the radio station that's owned by Odyssey, but maybe he still thinks like, I'm Jerry Jones. I've been going on here for 15 years. That's my bat phone. That's my megaphone. So it's not technically Jerry's radio station, but maybe he thinks
his platform.
It is his platform.
It's platform that time slot.
Yeah.
Every football season.
The other theory that people threw, I had some crazy theories thrown at me yesterday. I had someone throw out there, maybe Jerry thought he was doing, this is no disrespect to the people over there. It is what it is. If you work for the team website, you can't go as harsh as we're able to do.
They're just riffing. They're just riffing on possibilities. All right, that's how they responded to it. They came out kind of hard. Obviously, they were given some kind of vote of confidence behind the scenes from their bosses, which is absolutely what would happen. Your GM probably was on the phone all night with Jerry Jones, and they came up with the plan that I posed to you, which is they're just not going to be re-signed at their next deal. And today, I bet when they showed up, the GM was there, and the program director was there, and these boys walked in, and the GM and the program director was like, you guys go in there, you defend journalism, you show the people that we're going to say, we got your back, and everything's happy and happy. They just ain't going to be re-signed. They just ain't going to be re-signed. And they're going to be like, our ratings didn't go down. Unless they become a juggernaut. Look, here's how they win, and this is what I would like to see happen. They could become unfireable by then. They could take this moment, they could take this bit of heat, if you will, that they've received because of this run-in with Jerry Jones, and they could build on it, and they could be huge. And, if they pass the Musers, or if they're like really competing with the Musers in Morning Drive for the sports ear, then they'll be unfireable. But, short of that, billionaires can play that long, slow game, where they will they won't forget, they will get even with you. So that's why I thought the cavalierness of the way they were discussing this on the air was a little bit upsetting to me. A little bit like, oh, boys, be careful. Now, this is not where you feel like you're all chesty because, Dan Orlovsky, Mike Greenberg, and Shannon Sharp have all come to your defense. Be gentlemen. Think about, and I don't know. So they got a little chesty. They were a little bit, we're untouchable. They can't fire us, our GM, and they can't fire you. They probably won't re-sign you. Anyway. I mean, because the narrative right now is going around that Jerry Jones thinks he has all the power. And he technically doesn't. He doesn't own the station, but he does have all the power. And you're being delusional. You are deluding yourself if you think Jerry Jones can't get these two fired if he wants to. I mean, especially when you consider what that team means to that station, which is, as I pointed out earlier, everything. Everything. That station sucks without any Cowboys association. That station is just like a really bad ticket. And I'm not saying that's my estimation. I think that's just that's what the street is telling me. Because, look at me. I'm a street guy. All right, let's keep going. We spent a lot of time on the Jerry Jones thing. Guys, we got a whole bunch of stuff we got to still do. We got a whole bunch of stuff. Did you hear about this? Hey, did you hear about this? Hey, did you hear about this? I'm such a bore. Look at me. I'm sitting here. Did you hear about this? Just somebody hit me in the head with a hammer. Jake E. Lee got shot. Jake E. Lee. Who's Jake E. Lee? Oh, come on, man. Ozzy's guitar player from like the mid-'80s, early 80s, whenever. Jake E. Lee, man. Jake E. Lee. Jake E. Lee, one of the great, not a great, I don't know if he's great or not. Jake, he was an Ozzy guitarist, man. Look, Ozzy has great guitarists. Your Zach, your Randy's, your Jakey. Come on, man. Jake E. Lee got shot. He's like a 67-year-old rock dude. He lives in Vegas. He was walking his dog around his neighborhood. He's 67 years old, Jake E. Lee, former Ozzy Osbourne. And police are saying just a random crime. They just randomly, somebody just rolled down the street and just started shooting and they shot Jake E. Lee. Which, I mean, I don't know what he looks like these days. But I hope he's 67. I hope he's still like, he's one of those dudes from the Sunset Strip days who, even though it's 30 years later, they still have the same haircut and they still dress the same. They just look like the Crypt Keeper, the Crypt Keeper in like an MC cut. Anyway, let's see how he's going to be. Let's hope he's okay. Hey, you know what? Let's not make fun of Jake E. Lee. Let's make fun of the way he probably dressed. I can't change that. I can't change. Yeah, it's terrible what happened to him. But, a lot of these guys, they look funny because they're like 70 and they still dress like they're playing at Gazzara's. Jake E. Lee, ex-Ozzy guitarist, has been shot several times in random Las Vegas incident. Rock music guitarist Jake E. Lee, a veteran performer who performed with Ozzy Osbourne and founded bands Badlands and Red Dragon Cartel. Fuck yeah, Jakey. Red Dragon Cartel? Yeah! That's a name, man. That's a great name. No, that's a great name. Red Dragon Cartel. Metal. Red Dragon Cartel. I love it. The incident is under investigation. Lee's management, that's good. That's good that he still has management. Like, that means that he's still, The incident is under investigation. Lee's management said in a statement sent to USA Today, but police think the shooting was completely random and occurred while Lee took his dog out for a walk in the early morning hours. So what happened to the dog? Like, how bad was he shot? Did he drop the leash? Is the dog a runner? Mine's a runner. You know what? I've had this thought. Because, sometimes you hear about people dropping deads of heart attacks, just walking their dog. I've had this thought. You want to know how I'm going to die? I'll tell you how I'm going to die. My dog is going to kill me. Here's how my dog is going to kill me. I'm going to be walking the dog. I'm going to have a heart attack and I'm going to drop to the cement, right? The dog recognizing that it is no longer, tethered to me, is going to immediately run away. She's going to run away. She's going to go run. She's going to cross the street. She's going to go in and out of a couple of yards, and she's going to come back. And then she's going to see me laying there, and she's going to start like sniffing my face. She's going to be like that. She'll be like, okay, I'm ready to be back on the leash. She's going to be sniffing my face. Meanwhile, I've just had a heart attack, right? Okay, so somebody, I'm hoping, has seen this, and the paramedics are on the way, right? So now the paramedics are going to show up. Paramedics are going to show up. The cops are going to show up. And as they approach my lifeless body on the sidewalk, the dog is going to start attacking people. She's going to start attacking firemen and paramedics, and she's not going to let them help me because she doesn't know what's going on. All she knows is nobody gets near me, which is not cool. God. Anyway, that's how I know I'm going to die. So what happened with Jakey Lee's dog? Like, did he get shot and then, oh my God. Let's learn more, shall we? Lee, 67, is fully conscious and doing well in an intensive care unit in Las Vegas. Good. That's good. He is expected to make a full recovery. All right. Very cool. All right. There you have it. Very good. I just hope the dog's okay. Right? Like the dog didn't run away and they got the dog. Somebody I hope he's got like a girlfriend. I hope he's 67. I hope he's got like I hope he's like married. He's 67. He's formerly with Ozzy. I hope he's got like a 47-year-old rock slut girlfriend wife. You know what I mean? Like, and when I say rock slut, shut up, you stupid millennials. You weren't there. That was a badge of honor. All we rocker dudes, we remember rock sluts. That's what you need. That's a chick that was just leather halters, totally teased out hair. She would be like 47, 48, 49 now. He's like 67. I hope that's who was waiting for him. I want nothing but the best for Jakey Lee. A full recovery. I mean, the dude, he was in Ozzy's band. That's cool. Do you know here's how he makes money. You're like, well, he doesn't sell records. Look, he's fine. He was the primary songwriter for Ozzy Osbourne for a lot of Bark at the Moon. I think he was the primary songwriter on that. I mean, he's made money off publishing and all that kind of stuff. So he's got that nice life. But then also there's enough people out there who still think he's a name. So he can do he can do clinics. He can do guitar clinics. They'll pay him like $5,000 for a Saturday afternoon just to go sit at a guitar center and like do some licks and show people how he does. There is money to be made in being an old Sunset Strip. You don't have to have been in, Motley Crue or whatever. There are plenty of these Jakey Lee types leading really nice lives until they're walking their dog one day and somebody randomly shoots them. Crazy. Speaking of, let's stay in the rock world. David Lee Roth and Alex Van Halen are now fighting, which is, we talk about Oasis, right? We talk about Liam and Noel Gallagher, and I've still got my money on they are not going to make the Dublin show. They're going out on tour for the first time ever. They hate each other. They got 6 shows scheduled in the UK. The final show is in Dublin. I do not believe they will make the Dublin show. I think they will break up long before that. Okay. I'm still holding to that. So Van Halen, they're talking about doing a Van Halen reunion again. And guess who's being a big problem? Well, that's right. DLR himself, David Lee Roth. Apparently Dave and Alex Van Halen can't get on the same page. Before I tell you what they're disagreeing about, and here's the other thing. When you hear what they're disagreeing about, I mean, you're just going to be like there's only reasonable people can only choose one side in this argument. Okay. So when I tell you that, you'll know if you're on the same side as me, we're reasonable people. All right, here, I'll put it this way. Guess who's being unreasonable? That's right. If you said David Lee Roth, you're absolutely right. David Lee Roth being insanely unreasonable. So they want to go out on tour. Where's Sammy? Wouldn't that be cool? That's the gimmick. That is the gimmick for a Van Halen show that might get me there, knowing that Eddie Van Halen is no longer alive. Because I've seen Van Halen. I've seen Van Halen with David Lee Roth. I've seen Van Halen with Sammy Hagar. I've seen both versions of Van Halen. Very cool. I've seen David Lee Roth solo. I've seen, so Eddie can't be there anymore. All right. And what we've never seen is Van Halen with both Sammy and Dave doing the leads. And don't forget, Sammy is one hell of a guitar player. I mean, Sammy isn't certainly Eddie Van Halen caliber guitar playing, but Sammy can play guitar now. So that might be that. Wouldn't you be interested in that? If Van Halen was going out on tour, you might first think, well, it's not Eddie, so I don't want to see it. But if they told you Van Halen is going out on tour with David Lee Roth and Sammy Hagar, I'm telling you, man, because Dave can do some of his solo stuff and Sammy can do some of his solo stuff. And nobody gives a shit about Michael Anthony or Alex Van Halen. With all due respect, this was Eddie Van Halen and his, contemptuous relationship with his lead singers. That's the magic of Van Halen. So now let's have the two lead singers. So anyway, that's not something that's being pitched. But apparently Van Halen was pitching the idea of going out on tour together again with David Lee Roth as the lead singer. To which I asked, where's Sammy? And why doesn't Sammy join him? Anyway, moving on. That's not happening. That is not happening because Alex Van Halen and David Lee Roth cannot seem to come together on one very specific thing. Here's what that specific, I'm just going to read it to you. I think I'll give it to you in Alex Van Halen. I'll give it to you in his own words. This is a conversation that he had with Rolling Stone magazine that's out on newsstands now. A reunion tour for the legendary rock band Van Halen has been axed for the moment because the group's lead singer, David Lee Roth, refused to pay tribute to the late Eddie Van Halen. This, according to Alex Van Halen, in a new interview with Rolling Stone magazine. Okay. So that's why Van Halen is going out on tour because David Lee Roth refuses to have as part of the stage show a tribute to Eddie Van Halen. If I went to a Van Halen show in 2024, 2025, 2026, whatever, and they didn't have some kind of homage, I might want fucking AI Eddie if you can pull that off by 2025. What are you talking about, Dave? You're not for having any kind of thing for... All right, so we'll read you the story. Alex Van Halen, who founded the band with his brother, opened up to Rolling Stone for the first time since his brother's passing and shed light on the infighting that is still currently within the band. And the details that led to the latest planned tour's collapse. Eddie Van Halen, the virtuosic, there you go. Eddie Van Halen, the virtuosic and revered guitarist, died in October of 2020 following a long bout with cancer at the age of 65. Alex Van Halen confirmed to Rolling Stone in a piece published Tuesday that rumors of a planned tour following Eddie Van Halen's death were true and that there were even early rehearsals featuring himself on drums with original lead vocalist David Lee Roth. However, plans for that tour and a subsequent one recently abandoned fell through, following an explosive argument over paying tribute to the band's late co-founder. So Alex Van Halen and David Lee Roth are practicing for this whole thing. Yeah, man, let's get the band back together. And Alex goes, hey, how are we going to pay tribute to Eddie? And Dave goes, what do you mean? We ain't. I mean, holy fuck, Dave. All right, now here's a direct quote from Alex Van Halen, okay? I got to make this close, sorry. Alex Van Halen says, the thing that broke the camel's back, and I can be honest about this now, Van Halen revealed, was I said, Dave, at some point, we have to have a very overt, not bowing, but an acknowledgement of Ed in every show. If you look, Dave, how Queen does it, they show old footage, and the moment I said we got to acknowledge Ed, David fucking popped a fuse. The vitriol that came out was unbelievable, according to Alex Van Halen. Alex said he had several phone conversations with Queen's Brian May about how that band performs while still honoring the group's late singer, Freddie Mercury. But he said Roth allegedly simply refused to pay tribute to Eddie Van Halen. Here's more from Alex Van Halen. He says, "It's just, my God, it's like I didn't know him anymore. I have nothing but the utmost respect for David Lee Roth's work ethic and all of that. But Dave, you got to work as a community, motherfucker. It's not you alone anymore," Alex Van Halen said. The magazine noted that Roth declined to comment for the interview. Whoa! Come on. Here's why. This is why that's really upsetting, because I love all of these guys, and that is proof to me. I don't doubt it at all. Why? Because it's not a studio source says. It's Alex Van Halen speaking as Alex Van Halen to Rolling Stone. This isn't, fatguyinabasement.com. It's Rolling Stone. It's Alex Van Halen. It's his own words. He's saying, look, this Rolling Stone, get me right, quote me. This is what Dave said. So I absolutely believe it. I absolutely believe, and knowing, David Lee Roth and how mercurial and bizarre and eccentric he has been over the years, not willing to pay tribute to Eddie Van Halen. Well, you know what? Fuck you, Dave. Let's see what Sammy's doing. Because, my God, I would want half the show to be about Eddie Van Halen. I'm sorry. I'm not going to see Michael Anthony. I'm not going to see Alex. I'm not going to see Wolfgang Van Halen, Eddie's son, playing. I'm going for the whole trip of, remember when this band represented, what excellence in rock and roll was? Remember when that guy, that towering titan of rock and roll, used to sit there with the hair in his face and the cigarette dangling, and he would play things that made women wet and made men's bones quake. That's who Eddie Van Halen was. That motherfucker. Woo! And I'll tell you, one of my favorite things about Eddie Van Halen, my kid, 11, 12 years old, that's when I don't just introduce him to Eddie Van Halen. I introduced him, first thing we started listening to, or he started hearing in his head all the time, Chandeliers, then Eruption, the solos, the Eddie Van Halen solos are what my kid loves. Eddie Van Halen was a god of rock and roll. I would put him on the American Mount Rushmore of rock stars. American. They all got to be American, okay? That's an interesting one. We should maybe do that at some point. We should try and put together the rock and roll, the American, well, I guess that goes without saying. If it's the Mount Rushmore, it's American, okay? The Mount Rushmore of rock and roll. And of course, you got to understand that means you got to be an American. These are all American people. The Mount Rushmore of rock and roll. I absolutely, without question, put Eddie Van Halen up there. I guess what? We got to put Elvis? We got to put Elvis? I don't think we do. I don't think we got to put Elvis, but that's an easy one. I don't think we got to put Elvis. I don't think we do. Put Eddie Van Halen. Steven Tyler? We got to put Steven Tyler. We might have to put Steven Tyler up there. We might have America's Jagger. We might have to. All right, let's see. What else do we have? Hey, stargazing. Anybody like stargazing? Because it's a good time of year to be doing that. Here's what we got coming up tonight. We got us one of them big harvest moons, a gigantic, well, they call it a super moon now. We used to call them harvest moons. They're August harvest moons because the harvest, come on. What do we got? No, now it's a super moon. It's not a harvest moon. Your grandparents saw harvest moons. This is a super moon. Stay tuned through this commercial and we'll tell you all about what the super moon is. It's a harvest moon. It's the same fucking moon. Stop trying to rebrand and repackage everything. Anyway, harvest moon occurs, super moon, when the moon is at its closest to us. And thusly, it appears much larger in the sky than it would on any night. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It's going to be a big, giant, cool-ass moon. Now, here's why this is so interesting, because as I say, we have this is not special. What's special is that we also have a comet streaking across the northern skies, or the northwestern skies. There's a comet. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I'm a nerd for this kind of stuff, so I'll be looking for it when I go out and walk the dog this evening. Here's the best time to do. Be looking up in the northwestern skies. Find a clear spot where you can see a large horizon, where you can see a large swath of the northwestern sky. And then go about an hour after dusk. Okay, so just about it's not completely dark, but it's dark. It's dark, but not. You need your headlights, but it's not dark. It's not like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night dark. Still, yeah. So go out and then look up in the north sky. There you go, the northwest sky. You know what? I should tell you. I should probably give you better than that. How to watch the comet. Those hoping to spot the comet. Oh, here's what it's called. It's called Comet Shushinshan. Not a joke. Comet. You know what? It looks like, an Eastern European word, like Afghanistani kind of word kind of thing. But here's the thing. I think I said it right. I think I fucking nailed the pronunciation. I'm going to call it Comet Shushinshan Atlas. Shushinshan Atlas. Even remotely interested in how that's spelled? Shushinshan. Shushinshan is how I'm saying it. Shushinshan Atlas. TSU. So that's where I get the Shushinshan. TSU. CHIN. That's easy. That's chin. Shuchin. And then it's followed by Shan. SHAN. Shushinshan. Look at us. We're pronouncing the comet correctly. Those hoping to spot Comet Shushinshan Atlas should venture outside about an hour after sunset on a clear night and look to the west-northwest. The comet should be visible from both the northern and southern hemispheres and appear as a smudge in the sky, followed by a long tadpole-like tail. Yeah! That's going to look awesome. Oh, look what happened to the TV. We lost our American flag. Oh, that looks kind of nice. Whatever's going on there. This means that I've obviously been doing the show for too long today. Hey, there we go. Let's do this one again. There we go. Look at us. We're back. Technology is fantastic. All right, so there you go. So look up in the sky if you want to go stargazing. A couple of football deals. Amari Cooper is now with the Buffalo Bills. Good luck. That'll help. Every team could use a diva receiver. Is Amari a big diva? I don't know if Amari's a big diva. A lot of diva receivers. But then there's also, I like to give credit to the receivers that aren't like terrible divas. I mean, I know that he's a complainer. Like, he's like, hey, he's one of those. Okay, so is that kind of diva-y? I guess. I don't know. All right, so that's the first one, Amari Cooper to the Bills. CC in the chat room, while I'm reading these, why don't you let me know if there were any other big deals today? Owners meetings going on, right? Come on. Any deals that I missed while we're doing this show? Anybody get traded? What's happening? Did my Matthew Stafford being traded to the Minnesota Vikings one come through? That's the one I'm waiting on. I have it on good authority. Anyway, the other one, Devontae, go. Oh, look at Aaron Rodgers gets his wish. Aaron Rodgers gets his coach fired. Aaron Rodgers gets a new big receiver that they can't afford and aren't going to be able to pay for. And, oh, yeah, here we go. I hope they enjoy 8 victories on the season because that's what I think the Jets are looking at. Devontae Adams isn't going to fix this team. Devontae Adams is a nice weapon to have, but Devontae Adams is a nice weapon to have on a team that is otherwise pretty much ready to roll. He's a luxury item. He's not like the guy there's something wrong inherently with the New York Jets. We've seen that, okay? This isn't a situation where just leveraging yourself and destroying your cap even more by bringing in Devontae. And I understand, what has he got, 2 more years on this deal? It's still not something they can afford. Look at me. I don't know why I'm Mr. Cap conscious lately, but anyway, I just hate Aaron Rodgers, and this is not a good thing for him, and I just don't want to talk about it anymore. All right, let me see. ISCC, no deal so far. Mount Thrashmore. I like that. That's the name. Oh, man, that's a video that we should all do together. We should do that video together. Mount Thrashmore. That would be the Mount Rushmore of American rock and roll. But in calling it Mount Thrashmore, we are really like Elvis Presley does not belong on Mount Thrashmore, right? We can understand like Mount Bob Dylan. You could also make a case he's not going to be on Mount Thrashmore. So it's a very specific subgenre of I think Eddie Van Halen has an argument to be on the legit American rock and roll Mount Rushmore. I think just because of his influence and the way he changed everybody, he was something. And there's others, and you got to think about it. There's only 4 slots, right? Isn't that what we deal with? Mount Rushmore, there's only 4 slots for us. All right. I think that's it, guys. I think we're done with the show today. Thank you so much to our executive producer. As always, if you would like to be executive producer, be the biggest tipper of the day. Today's executive producer was CC of the Sports Bras. I didn't hear our thing go off today, so that's okay. I'll just cry myself to sleep. If you want to support this kind of talk radio, the kind that just never seems to stop until it does, drop a little something. Venmo, Cash App, all those things. Been doing it for 3 years. You people are dirty enablers. Why stop now? We'll be back tomorrow at noon. Like, follow, subscribe. All the day's hot topics, current events, everything that you need to know has been heard.